Hey guys, Kickassreaction here. The boy, the flaming shark, here as well.
Yep.
And we are back with some more Danganronpa Zero, with episode 4 of this read-along, if I'm remembering this right.
Yep, that's correct. We're gonna basically get to the halfway point, or like, I think percentage-wise, it's like slightly less or more. I think it's like 47 or 48%, but we're gonna get to the end of the first of 2 volumes. That is Danganronpa Zero in this episode, so that should be fun. We actually have a set end point this time around.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Not sure, I mean, I assume we're going to have to hit an even 50 for that to happen. But, I guess there's no guarantee.
I think it's a tiny bit less. I think Volume 2 is slightly longer, but they're
yeah,
close.
that would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So our last time, we actually had our first kind of important character death with, old creepy boy, Madurai,
yep.
kicking the bucket to a mistress's boot. There's worse ways to go, obviously. And by worse people. Well, maybe not worse people, but you know what I mean.
See, but being the worst kind of makes you the best.
The oxymorons are strong in this one.
That's all she is, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty good stuff. And, yeah, it seems like our yandere topic is kind of spinning. From Ryoko was the yandere. It seems like Matsuda's the yandere all along. And it was a Jabatum moment.
We're definitely, like, extrapolating things, because we don't really have any, like, confirmation on most of the things we're talking about, but it definitely feels like at least some degree of the discussions we had in the last episode, some degree of that is where the truth lies, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right, Chapter 12 begins.
Let's do it.
Matsuda left, so now Ryoko's alone again. As I let out a sigh, my body seemed to deflate entirely. My chest felt tight, which suddenly reminded me of something. I could have at least loosened the rope. I struggled lightly for a moment, but my body was exhausted. The burning pain I felt even now wasn't from the rope. The cause was far more obvious. I closed my eyes and tried to fall asleep. I wanted to escape the suffering I felt. I wanted to forget everything. With that thought in mind, I slowly began dissolving into dreams, slowly melting. I felt as though I was floating, suddenly freed from the weight of my body. Huh? My consciousness resurfaced in an instant, and when I opened my eyes, I discovered that the rope that had bound me was now untied. Matsuda? I rose from the bed and looked around the laboratory, but there was no one there. So, how did the rope come undone? Maybe it had slackened and come undone over time? Or perhaps I had a hidden talent for escape artistry, like a magician. As I pondered the reason, I took a good look around the laboratory and noticed an electric kettle on one of the desks. Maybe I should make myself...
Unless a certain blonde fashionista let you out.
It would be funny. She just pops right back up again. Hi, hello. Maybe I should
the music clip whenever the boy comes out of nowhere.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. I can't do that song, but I know exactly what song you're talking about. Maybe I should make myself some tea to help calm me down. Soon after, I poured some boiling water into a small teapot. The fragrance of green tea leaves tickled my nose as I prepared a cup and took a slow sip. The hot, strong liquid flowed down the back of my throat, made its way to my stomach, and I finally calmed down. You can voice this. Just go.
Eh?
Just say it. We'll find out who it is soon enough.
Looks like you finally calmed down.
A small boy I didn't recognize appeared out of nowhere, standing directly in front of me. Gah! I dropped my teacup in surprise, and it hit me directly on the foot. Gah! I writhed from the sudden agony.
You are so funny and clumsy, big sis.
Who are you? I managed to ask the innocent-looking laughing boy through the pain.
You've forgotten already. I introduced myself only last night.
We met last night? I limped to the bed, dragging my throbbing foot behind me to where Ryoko Otanashi's memory notebook was still lying. I picked it up and leafed through the pages. Ah, I got it, I suddenly remembered. Are you the boy from the dorms I asked to leave Matsuda a message?
Bingo, that's right. I'm Yuto Kanamashiro, from Hope's Academy's 77th class.
But when did you come in here? I asked. I mean, I didn't notice him entering at all.
Well, it's natural you didn't notice.
Kamishiro chuckled and sat down on top of the desk.
But that's the wrong question to ask.
What do you mean? Kamishiro's mouth spread into a broad grin.
I mean, I've been here all along.
All along?
Ever since Yakushi Matsuda tied you to the bed with that rope, at least. What the fuck? You was
what? He was
hearing
just
that
hiding?
Entire conversation?
That's crazy.
What the hell? How?
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. I heard every bit of that lover's quarrel you had after that and everything. Speaking of, that sure was one impressive knot he tied. I'll have to ask him to teach it to me sometime. For what purpose?
Yeah, that's a little sus. So you mean I gradually tried to piece together the full situation. You've been hiding somewhere in the lab since the beginning and peeked in on what Matsuda and I were doing?
How rude! I may be a little perverted, but I'm not the kind of guy who hides and pervs on people.
You sure about that? Kamishiro puffed his cheeks. I couldn't tell if he was genuinely upset, though. But if you weren't hiding, we would surely have noticed you. I mean, if not me, Matsuda would've.
You still don't get it, do you? Fine, I'll say it more clearly.
Kamishiro pointed a thumb at his chest in self-satisfaction.
You didn't notice me because of my talent. I am the ultimate spy, after all.
Interesting.
Hey, this was one of the theories for Kyoko back in the day.
I guess it would make sense if he looks like...
What kind of spy just outs themselves as a spy?
That's interesting, for sure. But it's interesting that, like... I guess it kind of makes sense, because, like, I know, like, there's the stereotype of, like, the spy is, like, the sexy guy who gets all the women, but it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Twilight.
Of a spy being, like, looking like a little fucking kid. Because we already know he's, like, the same age as her, but he looks like a little kid. And, like, you know, that would certainly help when you think about it.
It's using your features to your advantage, at least.
Absolutely, yeah. If he tried to puff out his chest even more, he probably would have fallen over backward. Ultimate spy?
You know, like 007 or Mission Impossible. You must have seen one of those movies at some point. I'm just like that. A secret agent, if you will.
That's crazy. It's 007, bro. You're British. It's James Bond. Come on.
Of course. But I'm not playing a British character.
Something tells me this guy is way too happy that he's the ultimate spy and is very familiar with spy movies.
It's important to take pride in your work.
Oh, Jesus. A secret agent? I had no memory of ever seeing either of the movies he mentioned, but trust me, there's like 12 million of both. It's not just 2 movies.
I've never actually seen any of them.
Any of the James Bond movies?
No.
Mission Impossible is like the Tom Cruise ones where he does like the crazy stunts. Some of them are good, and then there's some James Bond movies that are really good, and then there's some that are, you know, whatever. But I mean, the James Bond movies have been going on forever, so
that I do know.
Too.
Yeah, I think I've seen the intro of the gun and just shooting and that weird.
There's some really
POV.
cool ones, and it's always a big deal. Like whatever artist they get to sing the theme song, which is always titled over. The title of the song is always the name of the film, and it's pretty cool. Nothing about the boy gave the impression of something like that.
As long as I can remember, people have been telling me how short and plain and insignificant I look.
While explaining, he took out a large melon bread from somewhere. Honestly, it's a mystery where he could hide such a thing inside his outfit. Well, he is a spy, apparently, and nibbled on it for a moment before continuing.
When I was a kid, I hated my lack of presents, but I had a realization. This is not a disadvantage. Quite the opposite. It's an incredible talent. I mean, if you have no presents, no one's going to notice you. I'd be a great spy or a ninja. No drawbacks at all. It was a talent bestowed upon me from the heavens. If I use it, I could become a super spy that saves the world.
So that's interesting. So he essentially was just, like, he kind of... It reminds me a lot of a character from something that you're not familiar with, but it's basically like he has a lack of presence. So he can kind of hide without even hiding, kind of thing. It's like
he blends in.
Like you have to like really try to even notice him. So if you're not like specifically looking,
that is what happened last night. Like
just there,
Ryuko didn't even notice him,
which is super interesting because that means that Kamishiro can kind of just be in scenes, and you don't even know it.
I think that's literally what Monokuma did a couple of times in the game. He was just there for ages before anyone noticed him.
The second he finished talking, Kamishiro stuffed... I think that's more of a bit, but yeah.
Maybe it took some inspiration from this guy.
Perhaps. Stuffed the rest of the melon bread he was holding into his mouth. In other words, you weren't hiding at all, but we just didn't really notice you?
Well, one of you was hiding under the bed, and the other you couldn't really move your neck at all. So,
I think we're about to get a picture. I have a feeling, because of this, it's not the full page, so I think that might mean picture time.
Yeah.
Did we not get a picture?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
we didn't get a picture of him.
I don't think we did, yeah, so maybe we will now.
Nothing. Yes, exactly.
He said,
At
smiling.
first, I came here in order to fulfill the promise I made to you yesterday. You know, the message I was supposed to pass along. But when I got here, I saw you and Matsuda had already found each other. So I figured it wasn't necessary anymore. But it was a waste to just go back home, so I thought I'd go and show off my talent.
Your talent of being a spy. You decided to show it up. This guy really is silly. Show off your talent, but why?
So I could help you with the incident you've gotten yourself into with, of course.
I suppose the ultimate spy probably would be interested in the stuff she was talking about.
Let's go find this Junko Enoshima and teach that bitch who's boss.
Kamishiro looked at me with passion-filled eyes that didn't match his boyish face at all.
Now that you've seen me do it, you get it, right? I can easily gather any information and solve any case. I'm the kind of guy that likes to aim big. The more dangerous the incident is, the more exciting it is, even if it turns out to be a terrorist plan or steal a nuclear warhead. Oh, my body shivers just imagining it. This guy sounds like he's got a tongue of his own. Oh my.
I mean, they did say he looks like a little kid. And we know that he loves to eat.
I guess so, yeah. Fair enough.
He's the same age as these other characters. That's crazy.
Well, we'll look at Chihiro.
Yeah, I guess, but I feel like even Chihiro, like this, it's just the way that Chihiro's designed and looks like small and like fragile, but like I feel like Chihiro's design doesn't scream little kid to me the way that this one does.
I don't know. They look pretty similar to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know if these...
He's probably taller, too.
I don't know what the symbol's supposed to represent. I guess they could be, like, kunai.
Isn't that just the gender logo?
No. I think it's, like I said, maybe kunai, because even though he's a spy, he did mention, like, ninjas, and ninjas have kunai, but I don't know. It would be fun. See, now I'm curious because like spy doesn't necessarily mean that they can fight, but it would be really funny if this little guy all of a sudden just pulls out a fucking knife or something and just starts.
Has there ever not been a spy that could fight?
Typically in like it depends, right? Like I think like in most traditional senses, spies typically can fight, but you know it depends on because like reconnaissance and like gathering intelligence is the primary job of a spy. So like. You know, but especially in fiction, spies can always fucking fight. So, almost always, I guess. You never know. Kamashiro's body indeed shivered a little in excitement at his own words. Out of his innocent appearance oozed a sort of madness. That's an interesting way to put it. You're a strange one, aren't you?
Fair enough. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be in this school.
I mean, honestly, fair.
Yeah.
They're kind of all
You seen those
crazy.
weirdos from the 78th class? You seen the tongue on that one girl? I mean, holy shit.
Honestly, like, it is Hope's Peak Academy, and they kind of all are a little weird. Or a lot
Seriously. Weird. I mean, what's up with that ogre girl or that weird gothic Lolita?
Honestly.
Fucking bunch of weirdos, if you ask me.
He was right, of course. This was Hope's Peak Academy we're talking about. I'm probably just as strange. Yeah, you are.
So, what are you gonna do, big sis? I think your best course of action right now is to gain another ally. And not just a regular ally. I'm a specialist. I'm pro at intelligence gathering.
Kamashiro pulled out another piece of pastry. Does his outfit really have the space to store that many? But his hand suddenly stopped before it entered his mouth.
What the? Peanut butter bread? Ugh!
His shoulders drooped, dejected. Is peanut butter bread bad? It sounds delicious to me.
What are you saying, sis? Peanuts and bread are the worst possible combination. It's like trying to eat miso and rice together.
That sounds good to me.
And you're a problem.
I think that... I also, yeah, what miso and rice are, like, served together all the time in Japan. That's just normal. I see.
Well, he's clearly not a fan of his homeland's cuisine.
Comparison's just making me more confused. Yeah, because he's eating a bunch of pastries, and Japan's not great at pastries. I see. I didn't think it worth the bother of fighting over, so I just agreed.
I'm glad we understand each other. Here, you can have it.
Oshiro handed me the sticky peanut butter bread, then thrust his hand into his pocket again and pulled out a new pastry.
Oh, this is me. Yes! A Yamazaki Madurai cake! Wait. Is this? No, this is you. He looked as though he hit the jackpot. This is you.
No, yeah, there's a missing quote. It's definitely you. Yeah, your guy said yes, a Yamazaki Madeira cake, and then there's a missing quotation mark. He looked as though he'd hit the jackpot. His cheeks puffed, and a wide smile appeared on his face as he started chewing the bread.
Wanna front fu?
What did you just say? Kamashiro quickly swallowed the bread in his mouth.
So, what are you gonna do?
He said, his eyes turning eerily serious as he questioned me.
That is, I think your only option is to let me help you. I'm not the type of guy who would just ignore a damsel in distress, you know? When you have plumbing problems, you can call a professional plumber. And when you've gotten involved in the kind of trouble you're in right now, you need a professional like me. I'm exactly the kind of person who can clear up this kind of incident. Right now, we fit together like male and female genitalia. You're a confused person in trouble. You know what he said.
I know what he
said.
said.
And I'm a person who can solve such problems. It's easy to tell what the next step should be, isn't it?
You still have one
holes, man.
You still have one line.
Since I've already ejaculated the reason, after all.
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
Wait a second. I stopped his speech, confused.
What's wrong?
Didn't you break character a little bit just now?
Not really.
This just weird, like, meta shit.
He did say he's a little perverted.
It's interesting, too, because she has shown it, not a lot, but she's shown, like, fourth wall breaking, and, like, now that I think about it, when I think about, like, the fourth wall breaking in Danganronpa, the biggest fourth wall breaker we've met up to this point is Junko, and again, it's another, like, connection between them in terms of personality. Because Monokuma and Junko were the two that did it the most, which, again, Junko.
Well, it's mostly just meta for the cameras.
Yeah, I know, but even still, there's like 2 layers to it. I guess because like sometimes it's like, hey, like, well, oh, whatever. I guess I was just imagining it then. It bugged me a little at first, but I must have just not been paying attention. I just heard him wrong. That must be it. Yeah, because he did all of a sudden get like weirdly kind of apparently serious.
Because he's being serious.
He's like
he's
a silly
talking about
guy,
his profession and his talent.
He does seem to have a serious and eerily serious side, as she described it. And I would take her.
Yeah, when people
I would take
get
her
into their talents,
descriptions.
that's when they usually break their personas.
Because even if she's not consciously doing it, I would take her descriptions of people very seriously, given we know that she's the ultimate analyst now.
I mean, you've always been saying we can't trust any of her descriptions.
Yeah, I know. I still feel that way too, but it's the contradiction. Everything's a contradiction.
What good is being an analyst if you can't even admit the truth to yourself?
It's kind of more of a thing that we can't really trust, like, her perception, or her, like, interpretation of what's happening, but obviously she's very perceptive, so we're kind of stuck in an interesting conundrum here with that. Anyways, go ahead.
So, have you decided what you're going to do yet? If you just keep wandering around confused, you're probably never going to get it solved. I think your best course of action right now is to make the right decision and let me handle things.
My problem? I had to read my notebook again to put my thoughts in order. Honestly, I had already forgotten what kind of problem I even had by this point. But the moment I read the explanation, my heart started pounding at an intense rate. I closed the notebook in a panic. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! It was unreasonable beyond unreason. I had found myself in an abnormal situation to top all abnormal situations. There was no way I could find a way to handle this kind of scenario inside Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook, no matter how much I looked. I didn't have enough data. And I definitely didn't have enough experience. Like, she's even talking about data now. Like, that shit's interesting. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I raised my eyes in haste, and they met the eyes of the boy before me, who was still
more so whatever
Street.
Matsuda did is wearing off and muscle memory starting to kick in a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's like instinct.
Yeah. Looks like you've decided.
Yeah.
Well then, why don't you go ahead and tell me what happened that got you in this position?
It seemed he could read something in my eyes, and was already prepared to take over. He was right, though. There's probably nothing else I could do. If I can't do it myself, I have no choice to rely on others. It was simple enough logic. Other people who are not Matsuda. It literally is coming across like she's unbrainwashing herself.
With some outsider influence.
Yeah, of course.
Kyoko's... Like, why did I say Kyoko? Junko's trying to expose her to more potatoes than just Matsuda.
Interesting. The time had finally
pretty
come.
Much,
yep.
Yeah, pretty much. Literally this, just forcing her to rely on people not Matsuda.
The time had finally come to put myself in the care of people who had nothing to do with me before now.
What are you waiting for? Come on, let's hear all about it. Go on.
Okay. Urged by Kamishiro, who was acting like a dog craving food, I opened my notebook again. But before I could explain about the trouble I was in, though, I had to explain my forgetfulness.
Huh. I can't say I'm jealous, but this is one interesting trait you have there.
As he listened, his face looked as though he'd found an unusual and exotic treasure. I continued explaining how my past memories had been stolen from me. I told him about my late-night invitation to the Central Plaza where I found a dead body, and then met a girl by the name of Junko Enoshima. Recounting the events in my notebook was enough to make my voice tremble, but Kamishiro just listened attentively, narrowing his eyes. Then as I finished, he finally spoke up.
I never imagined I'd hear Junko Enoshima's name here.
Huh? I feel like someone else had that reaction when I told them too.
Are you surprised I had a bigger reaction to Junko Enoshima's name than I did the dead body? It was just the same with Matsuno earlier. I guess you were right, Big Sis. You really are forgetful. That's amazing.
That's really not something you should admire, you know. Kamishiro pulled himself together in agreement.
Well, I think I get the general idea of your situation. Since I'm a super spy, I don't get too surprised by dead bodies, but this really is quite an incident you've gotten yourself involved with. And if that Junko Enoshima girl is connected to it, then it's probably also an especially atrocious one. Yep, you're right to come to me for help.
Do you happen to know this Junko Enoshima? I asked. He sure talked as if he did, at least.
Not directly, no. But I feel that she and I share a destiny. A stiff destiny.
Do you want to fuck her? Excuse me?
You sure had an experience straight out of Hollywood blockbuster, haven't you? No need to worry, though. Whoever the protagonist was before, I'm taking over the role now. From now on, this is a thrilling spy suspense story.
Oh, right.
I guess just assume the mantle of being the new MC. What the hell are you talking about?
New protagonist has just dropped.
Oh, no.
Thrilling? That's an odd phrase to use for your own life.
You shouldn't think too hard about that.
Hamashiro thrust his hand into his pocket again and pulled out yet another pastry.
Yeah, ya cocoa swell!
He cheered and then returned to his explanation.
I'm currently invested in an unrelated case, you see, and that's where I heard the name Junko Enoshima. At the time, I didn't think she was such a key figure, but if she's also involved in your incident, I guess that changes the story. I mean, it would probably be too much of a coincidence for the same girl to be involved in two different cases.
So he's investigating an unrelated case. Potentially, if I had to guess, the tragedy of Hope's Peak.
Yeah, that is the immediate assumption.
That's the most likely thing here. Interesting. Kamashiro's eyes glittered. He must have been telling the truth when he said the more dangerous the incident, the more excited he gets.
By the way, aren't you curious what that other case might be? Aren't you?
Is he just going to leak all the information to this girl? Because, I mean, I know she's forgetful, but she does also write stuff down. Yeah, I guess. I reluctantly nodded in agreement since he was
Doesn't matter
so
if he
hard.
can keep the conversation going long enough for her to forget.
Fair enough.
He's not just going to let her write it down as he's looking right there.
Interesting.
Should I even tell you? It might be bad word if this leaks out.
He emphasized the secrecy of the case despite the fact that it was him who brought it up in the first place.
Of course, weighing the options. Well, whatever.
He just doesn't care.
Whatevs.
He dismissed his worries lightly as if they were nothing at all. Hopefully it wouldn't be too troublesome.
Actually, I'm not sure we can even call it an unrelated incident.
What do you mean?
I think the two of them might be connected. That's what I mean.
Connected? So the two incidents were actually one?
Yeah, it's gotta be tragedy. Honestly, it's probably better I do explain this case to someone else. It's a pretty dangerous one, though. So there's a possibility something could happen to me.
Interesting. Done with this preface, Kamashiro started pacing around the room as if he were a detective announcing the results of his investigation.
That other instant I'm talking about is the instant that was given the name The Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy.
Are we gonna finally find out?
Yeah, I can't lie, I keep making the joke about, introducing, the previous main cast, but it's pretty weird that Kyoko has nothing to do with this story, despite the fact that this tragedy is pretty fresh.
That we know of.
Yeah.
I mean, because apparently
we haven't even named her at all.
We had no idea that Kamashiro was looking into this as the ultimate spy. So until now,
well, that's different. He's a spy.
Yeah, I know, but
you're not supposed to know him.
Sure, but
Kyoko's just a detective.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's we don't know. We only know what we've seen, so we have no idea what else is going on at this point. So, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I think out of all of the DR1 characters, besides, again, maybe getting, an actual proper Mukuro appearance, and obviously already Junko, she's the next most likely to show up in some context, for obvious reasons of what's going on. And
it just feels weird that, we've had characters discuss the tragedy a decent amount of times now, and no one's even so much as name dropped her.
Well, again, it is hush-hush information.
None of the council committee's been like, Jin, like, why don't we use your daughter for this? Like, she's the ultimate detective or something.
That we know of. We don't know. The only thing we got with Jin was that big little thing in Chapter 1. We haven't heard from him since, so we don't know.
Well, we also know he's involved Matsuda in this now.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that happened in Chapter 4, so we've seen him twice.
Maybe. But yeah, because the perspective has almost exclusively stayed between what's going on with either Matsuda or
we have,
Ryoko.
because
we had Madurai perspective, but it was involving his chase of Ryoko.
Yeah, we have, because Chapter 1 was before we met Ryoko or Matsuda, and then then that scene with Jin happened when we were in Matsuda's POV. So we've seen him twice.
But yeah, everything has been related to Ryoko or Matsuda since they introduced them. Whether it's been in their POV. They've used other ones, but it's all been related to those two. Anyways, did you read this line?
I think I did. We started talking about it.
Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah, the tragedy of Hope's Peak. Suddenly my heart started pulsing, as if small bombs were going off inside it. Huh? What's going on? The Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy? It was an absurd title straight out of fiction. And yet something inside me reacted to the words. I felt a weight pressing down on my shoulders as I flipped through the notebook. My thoughts essentially came grinding to a halt.
Hey, big sis, what's wrong?
When I snapped out of it, I found Kamishiro staring intently at my face.
You're like you're in pain. Do you need something for your heart? Herbal liquor or something?
No, I'm fine. It's nothing. I took a couple of deep breaths and somehow managed to calm myself.
In that case, aren't you curious to hear what kind of instant the Tragedy of Hope's Peak was? Yeah.
It's still you.
Oh, are you? You gotta be.
Yeah, I am. He was pressing hard again, so I had to reluctantly agree for the second time.
Yeah, well, you see...
Kamishiro closed his eyes and held up both hands as if stressing its significance.
I don't really know the exact details, but oh, for fuck's sake, can we get a straight answer already?
You don't know? I complained. He was the one who raised the subject in the first place.
Well, I know what the rumors are.
Rumors?
So far, I've only heard rumors surrounding it. I'm still investigating whether it really happened or not. Right now, it's more like one of the 7 wonders of the school. The title.
Keep
the
going.
Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was just a name that somebody decided to give it.
I see. So, it's just a rumor. It was silly for me to be so nervous, but just as I was about to loosen my stressed shoulders...
Hey, you shouldn't relax just yet.
Kamishiro narrowed his gaze at my immediate relief.
Even if it is a rumor, there's a good chance it might be true. And if it's true, it was one truly terrible instant. This is one bad rumor we're talking about. I wouldn't loosen up if I were you.
So I get you don't know, like, for sure whether this happened or not, but can we actually hear what the rumor is?
Yeah, can you at least say what you think might have happened by now?
My heart rate began to pick up once more.
No one knows exactly who started the rumor. It's possible they were even trying to stop it from being spread in short. It's dangerous. That's why I felt I ought to tell you.
My best guess would be Junko started the rumor.
Yeah.
Makes sense, because she wants to stir up chaos. I didn't want to listen to him anymore. And potentially it's part of a bigger plan of her plan to, plans upon plans to get to where we know it supposedly eventually got to in the end. That was my honest, true feeling. Nevertheless, it seemed I was out of luck.
But if you still want to hear all about it, I guess I have no choice. Here, listen.
He was already in full swing, engrossed in his own words.
You see, here's what the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy is all about.
Kamishiro cleared his throat in a theatrical manner.
15 students belonging to Hope's Peak Academy suddenly disappeared, and 13 of them were later found dead. That is the tragedy of Hope's Peak. That's it.
Interesting. Well, I mean, 13 kids dying is pretty wild.
Yeah, but you think a bit more of a grand spectacle than that.
I mean, again, this is like the pre-despair world. Like, this is presumably, because this is before, like, the world, God knows what happened to the world. That's a pretty big deal, especially at this school.
Can you clarify? Do we know which class this was?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
We really don't have much information, but obviously, I mean, we know. I mean, we pretty much the only. We know it's not our class because they're obviously fine, and they're obviously things don't happen to them until way later. But yeah, unknown. But 15 is an interesting number, and we don't even. I mean, it's not even a guarantee that they're all in the same class. Even. I mean, they just said 15 students, which is a very funny number, but.
Yeah, that is true.
We just know that a bunch of students got seemingly kidnapped, and then most of them were found dead. It's interesting that's actually an interesting detail, because the story is they all disappeared, and then, again, the majority of them were later found dead. So it wasn't like they just found a crime scene. They all just went missing, and then later on they found a bunch of them dead.
Yeah, and if I remember, one is still missing, and the other one's in a coma.
Yes, that's the situation, I believe. I was taken aback by the short, harsh story. It was too strange, too bizarre. It didn't even seem a little bit real. But it's just a rumor, isn't it? I asked, seeking confirmation. Kamishiro shook his head.
Oh, crap, Oh, where are we? I just spaced out for a second.
Yeah. I just said, but it's just a rumor, isn't it? And then that line. So it's your line. Had I been near the bottom of the page, fourth from the bottom.
Oh, had I been entirely sure it was just a rumor, I wouldn't be investigating it right now.
But
it seems there really are some students who disappeared.
He whispered as if telling a secret.
The rumour itself started about a month ago, at the time when 14 members of Hope's Peak Academy Student Council were suddenly invited to study abroad. And are now, supposedly, overseas. Don't you think that's a little suspicious?
So it's members of the Student Council. So probably different classes, but, same, a certain group. Interesting. That's just a coincidence. But the rumor said 15 went missing, didn't it? So then the number doesn't match up. I guess it was just a rumor after...
Those are just details. I mean, it is just a rumor right now.
First he says it's just a rumor, then he scares me by saying it's real, and now he's going back. Is he doing this on purpose? If it is real, then that's terrifying.
Well, it doesn't matter. How about we return to your problem, big sis?
My problem?
Have you forgotten already? We were talking about how this Junko Inoshima girl is related to these incidents.
I looked down at my notebook again. Oh, that's right! I remember. The strange rumor about dead students has nothing to do with me. My problem is that I'm being stalked by a crazy woman by the name of Junko Inoshima. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Those really are some really weird interconnecting problems, huh? So aren't you curious? Aren't you curious about how Junko Inoshima is related to the tragedy of Hope's Peak? That's where our motive for going after you might be hidden. After all, you're curious, aren't you?
Yeah, please tell me. Now she's actually curious. I pressed the pressing Kamishiro.
Well, you see... I really don't know!
Huh? A sudden dizziness grabbed me and I could feel my balance slip. You don't know? What the... As I trembled, Kamishiro began pacing around the room again as though he hadn't noticed me.
But about a month before the rumours of the incident started spreading, Hope's Academy executive officer conducted an investigation regarding her. Don't you find that suspicious?
Yeah, I believe they... In DR1, I know they talked about... They didn't mention specifically Junko, and they obviously never pieced together who Junko was, but they did talk about how they felt that there was something surrounding Mukuro, and it's like in her profile that like Jin was kind of closing in on what we know to be the ultimate despair, but he never quite pieced it together in time.
Yeah.
So there definitely was suspicion and suspicion that was directed kind of in the right direction, but nothing ever materialized.
It still makes you wonder, though, if he was that close, why he let the school be sealed up with Junko inside.
I mean, he believed in Mukuro.
Both of them.
I don't, like, that's the thing. We don't really know what his take on Junko was. But yeah, we don't know the details of that. Because that's the thing, right? Like, what's interesting about Mukuro is she's kind of inherently suspicious because she's a soldier, and that's kind of more of like there's more of like an obvious link to like, oh, this could be a bad person, and you know, she was part of a really like crazy group of people in Fenrir, right? So she has like a lot of, it's almost like a weird misdirect with the sisters where like she kind of has obvious suspicions. And while she was as apparently this awful person, she wasn't really the one. It was like you were narrowing in on the wrong sister. Even though she was legitimately like sus, she wasn't kind of, to use the literal term, the mastermind, so to speak.
I mean, I don't know how you don't close in on Junko with her changing personality every 5 seconds, but fair enough.
We don't know if we don't have any reason to believe that she was actually necessarily doing that, like, in public.
Like, come on,
stuff.
It's Junko. She wouldn't have been able to suppress that for so long.
I mean, she played Monokuma for a whole game.
Yeah, but that was just whenever Monokuma was needed. This is like her 24/7 in public.
But like, that's the thing. I happen to think that like the fashionista persona is the persona.
And she very specifically always kept her time as Monokuma limited unless it was in a class
Sure,
trial.
but I think the fashionista persona, she probably enjoys that one more, quote unquote. She hates herself and probably wants to die, but relatively
Well, we know
speaking.
she wants to die.
Oh yeah, of course. But like,
see how excited she got at that?
Because that's the thing, right? Like, Mukuro built her fake Junko persona on that persona. She wasn't changing personalities all the time, which means that she was basing it on the Junko that the public knew. Even if it wasn't, in Junko's opinion, it was shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously I definitely think that anytime she gets the opportunity, she likes to take off the mask, which is one of the reasons she's been enjoying interacting with Ryuko, because she's playing games with Ryuko, and part of those games involve the real Junko, as it seems. Whether,
all 7 of them.
And or Mukuro playing the real Junko, because fuck only knows what's going on there, but...
The woman of infinite disguises.
Yep.
And she's not even the ultimate spy.
No. That's the thing, right? It's like they're not even really disguises. It's a little different. Whereas the ultimate spy is so good at not being noticed that he doesn't even have to do disguises.
Yeah.
It's very suspicious. I regained my posture and raised my voice in excitement. If they investigated her, there's a good chance she's the culprit, right?
It's too early to say for sure. We don't even know if the rumors are true.
Because that's the thing, as we'll probably find out, she likely had nothing to do with it, and that actually probably made her look less suspicious. Because I don't expect her to be responsible for this. Maybe she influenced the person that did it, but I definitely don't think she did it directly. So, and I think that's the thing where it's like she's kind of in the realm of these suspicious things, but they just can't pin anything on her. So it makes her look a little more innocent. He's probably right. As I made my hypothesis, I somehow convinced myself the incident really did happen. Yeah, no, that's Kamishiro.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I had to. Wait, no.
Okay.
No. I'm a little confused. I think it's Ryoko, actually. If this rumor is true, yeah, because he's probably right. As I made my hypothesis, I somehow convinced myself the incident really did happen. Well, that's not good. If this rumor is true and she's the one behind it, shouldn't she already be locked away or something? Kamishiro leaned on a desk and continued. And then, yeah, I think now it's Kamishiro. No, I think it's confusing, but I think that first part is Ryoko, and then this is Kamishiro.
Furthermore, it seems that Junko Enoshima herself was the one who started the rumor about the tragedy of Hope's Peak in the first place.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Huh?
That makes it unlikely that she's the culprit. I mean, a culprit spreading a rumor about their own crime? That would be far too dangerous.
I think you underestimate Junko.
You're not wrong, because the one chapter that fucking happened, the fandom hated it.
That's fair. But also, I do think that, while I don't think that Junko would not be willing to do that, I also think that she's not the culprit.
She is not the blackened just yet.
Not in this case, at least. But is it really true? Was it really Junko Enoshima who started that rumor?
It all started a few weeks ago when a cryptic email message describing the incident was sent to every student in the Hope's Peak Reserve course.
Interesting. So she wanted to stir up the Reserve Corps students? And the person who sent it was Junko Enoshima?
Uh-huh.
Yep, Kamishiro nodded, swallowing another bite of sweetbread.
I know an underclassman who's a programmer and is exceptionally good with computers.
Hey!
Our first reference to a fucking known character. And yeah, of course, they know each other because they're probably dating because they're the same age, because they're kids.
Okay.
I'm joking, of course.
Yeah, I think Chihiro...
I had to make that joke because we spoke about it earlier.
I think Chihiro's got better choices than that.
Well, that's just... Wow.
Yep. I mean, we know that all the guys were slobbering over Chihiro.
Whoa! Oh, I assume we're not counting Byakuya as a male in this case?
Well, yeah, okay. Now, I don't literally mean every guy in the school, but I would think that Chihiro was, probably top 10 in terms of most popular in that regard. Junko probably very high on that list for obvious reasons. I'd imagine Celeste was pretty popular. Probably other people that we're not familiar with, but...
Anyone not named Hifumi or Taka.
Anyways. But cool, shouts to Chihiro.
Hell yeah. I have a monitor the school service me every now and then, and I happen to find an email by chance. The sender was redacted, of course. With a super spy like me on the case, I knew who it was immediately. And just to be safe, I never told the underclassmen about the contents of the email or about the sender's identity. I wouldn't want them to get caught up in a dangerous mission. I'm very careful like that. Well, that's even more tragic.
I was just about to ask why he would involve me in such a thing, but decided instead to hold my tongue.
Because we're classmates.
Are we?
He's 77th class. I'm assuming she's 77th. I think it said Matsuda was 77th at one point as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But that makes sense because they're also not roommates, but they're like next door to each other. Matsuda.
Yeah, they're in the same area, so
maybe not. Yeah. It would make sense that Matsuda and Ryoko would be in the same class, but it also seems like what's his name, Kamishiro didn't know Ryoko before this, so I don't know. Anyways, but why would Junko Noshima do such a thing? Why spread a rumor about that?
That I do not know.
Why don't we ask her ourselves? I had a sudden flash of inspiration. Let's just find her and ask her what's going on.
If that were possible, I'd have done it already.
Kamishiro shook his head in dismay.
I'm not sure why, but I can't manage to find Enoshima anywhere. She isn't going into any classes and the teachers seem to allow it. Her classmates are also have no idea what's going on. I'm telling you, that girl was allowed too much freedom. It's possible she's even been expelled since nobody can locate her.
Interesting. I mean, I could see Junko having like free reign because, you know, it's one of those weird things with like Hope's Peak where like in theory like there's a lot of these students, like some of them like probably actually do need to do well, but when you think about what a lot of their like professions and talents are, a lot of them don't like need to like succeed in Hope's Peak to succeed in life, kind of thing. Like Junko's already set, so it's kind of one of those weird things where it's like people like Junko going to Hope's Peak is good for Hope's Peak, so it kind of makes sense that Hope's Peak would just not care.
Yeah,
like if she's not showing up to classes, they'll just not expel her because, you know, she'll eventually graduate and she'll be a super successful, and that'll further boost Hope's Peak's image.
I'm trying to think because, yeah, like, of the class we know, I think a majority of them don't need Hope's Peak at all.
Yeah, maybe Hiro, Makoto.
Definitely Hiro and Makoto. But, like, I think the most prominent ones are, like, Celeste, Byakuya, Sakura. Those are probably the top 3.
Yeah, those they're gonna be fine.
Leon, he had like that natural talent without ever touching a ball before.
Kyoko's kind of one of the weird cases where like it's almost disadvantageous that she's at Hope's Peak, because that might mean that she becomes more famous than she wants to be. But obviously, she had other motives for, you know, going to Hope's Peak.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think of our class, like, yeah, some of them. That's kind of it, because they implied that some of them aren't even going to keep their ultimates when they leave the school.
Sure.
Oh, I guess Chihiro's actually, like, she was mentioned, like he's up on that list as well for his programming stuff.
I mean, like, most of them are like very, very skilled in very practical ways where Hope's Peak isn't really gonna like probably do much for them, if at all.
Like Byakuya, bro's already got 4 billion just sitting around.
Like Toko's already like an famed writer.
Yeah. Like they've already made their their monetary gain from their stuff.
But yeah, and then there's like a few of them that it kind of is like they actually have to find themselves or whatever and take the opportunity to, you know, go somewhere in life.
Yeah.
Because, like, depending on whether, like I said, like, if Leon's serious about not playing baseball, which obviously he kind of goes back and forth with whether he actually likes it or not. But, like, that's one that's, you know, a little more interesting. And
I know in the manga, during his death scene, he admits he actually likes baseball now.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep pursuing it.
It's like one of those things, and I can actually kind of relate to this. Ironically, not even just thematically, but literally with baseball.
I know you're a big sports nerd.
Where it's like it's one of those things where it's like with sports and like actually playing sports, it's kind of one of those things where the higher the competition level, the less fun it gets. So it's kind of one of those things that like the more serious it's taken, the less enjoyable it becomes. And like I experienced that same exact thing. Yeah, where it's like it's fun to play, but then you get more and more serious as you go up levels. And then and high school high school baseball in Japan is psychotic. Like it's like joining the fucking army. Like that shit, it's actually insane. Like there's a great YouTube video about the rise of baseball not even the rise because it's been popular forever, but kind of just the rise of Japan as kind of like a world leader in baseball over the years. And it talks a lot about like Japanese high school baseball and how psychotic it is. But like there's a famous tournament, and I think Leon actually mentions it in one of his FTEs. But there's a really famous high school baseball tournament, and it gets bigger viewership than like pro baseball. Like it is like the biggest baseball and like arguably the biggest sporting event in Japan is the National High School Baseball Tournament. It's like this huge thing that's like one of the most watched things every year in Japan. Like it's massive. So that's the thing, and it's one of those things where there's kids that literally like destroy their careers in the process with how like crazy they go with it. And if you like do something like iconic in that, you can be like a celebrity the rest of your life in Japan based on what happens in this fucking high school baseball tournament. So it only further breeds some of the insanity. You got like coaches getting paid like 6 figures as high school baseball coaches. Like this shit's crazy in Japan.
Perhaps that's what this whole game was based on then.
So that's kind of it. Franchise. So that's the thing, right? Like I think that's something that doesn't translate well, I think, for a lot of people in Japan or outside of Japan, is like when we talk about Leon as the ultimate baseball star, like that's a really big deal specifically in Japan at his age. So he would like, that's the thing when they talk about like the biggest celebrities, like Leon is up there with like Junko and Sayaka.
That's crazy to think about.
And that's like, I think something that's like, if you're not, it's specifically like a Japan
Even funny
thing.
how both of those two went out first.
Yeah.
No, all 3 of them did.
Literally, dude, that probably was on purpose because they were probably like, now that I think about it, yeah, they were probably the 3 most well known because like obviously, like, you know, maybe you'd recognize Toko's name, but like, you know, Toko wouldn't, like, she would avoid that fame as much as possible. Yeah, I'm trying to think about the group. They probably were the 3 most famous ones. Because, like, Sakura obviously was, like, super badass, but I feel like that's a little more niche in terms of fandoms. But,
I mean,
like,
Hina's also a swimmer, so she's also the sporting one.
She was getting there, but I think the difference is that, you know, swimming isn't this, like, weird cult thing that baseball is in Japan. So, like,
for sure.
So, like, because Junko on the magazines, Sayaka's the famous singer, and then, yeah, Leon's the big baseball star. So they were probably the 3 most famous ones. That was probably intentional.
Yeah, almost definitely. They take them out first. Oh,
that's
love that.
Really funny. But yeah, no, interesting side tangent there. But
did you know that Did you know that even in the prototype for the game, they planned on having Junko or Mukuro get killed by Leon in the trial chapter? So either way, they would have taken Junko and Leon out like every time.
That makes sense, because, like, obviously the Sayaka thing came from a lack of interest in seeing her face anymore.
Yeah, and Leon.
Yeah. But there was kind of more of a long-term thing with that.
Such a tragic reason for those 2 dying.
It's really funny how development for these type of things can go.
Yeah. What's even weirder is they had such an interesting concept for him. Like, an ultimate that doesn't even like his ultimate talent is a very unique concept.
I think that's something.
So they didn't really play it up with that.
I could definitely see them doing that again. That feels like a type of thing that'd be like...
You don't want it to just rehash old ideas, though.
Yeah, but like you said, it wasn't explored that much.
Yeah. And they kind of backpedaled on it anyway.
Yeah, so it's kind of like... But, Anyways,
that's kind of stuff I'd want to see, as well as I'd want to see going forward. I think we mentioned in this very read along the stuff about seeing 2 lucky students together. I'd definitely love to see if they survive, like 2 kids that went out of Hope's Peak with the same ultimate. Since I think you said or someone said that when you graduate, you kind of cease your ultimate status.
Well, yes, because again, in the Ultimate is the dub version, but it is super high school level, is technically what it actually is.
Yeah, so you see, like, two people that graduated from different times, like, with the same potato title.
Yep. Yeah, that'd
be pretty cool.
If they were, like hypothetically, like, if it was, like, two, like, science-related things, that, like, they, like, work together, like, the younger one becomes, like, an apprentice to the older one or something. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, because of our group that survived, it's, like, the only really one that's, like, viable to that is Makoto, because the others were, like, a bit niche.
I mean, writing prodigy, I could see, but, you know, it's more the problem with who the person is. And then, I could see maybe you can find a swimmer, but obviously, again, if the world really is fucked up, God only knows who's even left.
Yeah, or the former previous ultimate murderous fiend.
That would be interesting if there actually is one. I mean, yeah, that's kind of just a meme, but yeah. Anyways, I'm not actually sure where on this page we were.
I read that.
I know, the top two for sure. Top
three
I think, for sure.
We're on your line, but I did meet her. Next part.
That's it. But I did meet her right here in this school. That's what my notebook says. It's interesting, though, like, the way I will say, I do want to throw out this possibility. The way they're talking about how, like, Junko's absent from everything, it does make me wonder if, like, it does make me wonder, because you always have that, like, question mark with anytime we see Junko, we don't know for sure whether it's her or Mukuro. So it's kind of that interesting thing that, like, it's playing off the first game, because we know if they did this once, who's to say that they aren't doing it earlier on too. And it's, like, really, really freaky. Like, yeah, because it's like it's really interesting to think about how we just don't even know. Like, we literally don't even know who we're talking to every time Junko shows up.
And that's part of the fun. Part of the mystery of the ultimate fashionista.
I do hope at some point. Yes, I do hope at some point in this story we get both of them together.
As Junko?
That would be hilarious. And I could actually see that happening specifically to Ryoko to fuck with her. But I'd like to see them, Junko and Mukuro. As Junko and Mukuro.
Of course, anything from Mukuro would be appreciated.
Oh, of course, yeah. I feel like we're gonna get Mukuro stuff at some point. A lot of it might be later, just because, like, again, there's so much that needs to be revealed, I feel like. So I feel like that might be more towards the end. But I definitely think we're gonna get Mukuro stuff at some point. Anyways, you were saying, but I did meet her line.
She probably wanted you involved in this no matter the cost, Big Sis. That's why she appeared right in front of you, stole the notebook of yours, and made a direct confession about committing a murder. But I have no clue what her intentions are. It's so far out that all we can currently do is laugh about it.
Well, that's a little concerning. Bro just, like, made a crazy laugh.
Bro gonna start whipping out that tongue?
Dude, I'm, like, literally, every character we meet, all I'm thinking is, are you another one of the Junko's servants?
Seriously?
It's like, because they all just randomly decide to show, like, a weird trait that's like, oh, that's a little concerning. Which, I get it, it's Hope's Peak Academy. They kind of all have a little bit of, like, what the fuck, but...
She's practically got the whole world in her hand.
She's got the whole world in her hands. I literally made a comment about that in a video.
In her hand.
Literally made a comment about this with Junko in a Danganronpa video.
Appropriate.
Yep. And Anyways, yeah, but like that's actually interesting because that's exactly like Kamishiro, I think, is breaking it in. She wanted Ryuko involved in this no matter the cost. That does seem to be at least the motivation. Obviously, the reasons why we've theorized about, but that does seem to be surface level what she was doing with Ryuko. Kamishiro linked his arms behind his head and laughed happily. Wait a minute, I chided him in response. This isn't time to be laughing. This is serious.
It's fine. It's like we're in any hurry.
We're only 38% through the story. It's fine.
We've only reached 4% so far.
I know. This has been the most. That was a long tangent that we went on. Kamishiro replied, letting out a yawn.
The only reason we don't understand it yet is because the investigation is still in its early stages. As soon as I get back on the case, we'll know the rest of the details in no time. Right now, we're putting together theories.
Yep.
We don't know how much of it is all true or not. So in that department, just leave the rest to me.
Yep, they're theorizing just like we are. It's great. Kamishiro produced yet another pastry from somewhere as if to signal that the conversation is done.
Ah, the legendary three-flavor Danish.
He stuffed it into his cheeks happily.
Oh, right, I almost forgot.
He suddenly turned back to me, licking the sugar off his fingers.
We haven't discussed the matter of... What is that? Remuneration? Remuneration, have we?
You want me to pay you?
Don't worry, I don't really want or need any money. Oh, no. I mean, I'm not really asking for anything important.
Nothing important? So, do you want me to buy you some pastries?
Why did I read that as panties?
That would be funny.
I thought that said, do you want to buy some of my panties?
Oh, God. I mean, he said he was a little perverted, but that's a little more than a little perverted.
I mean, they always, underestimate themselves or undermine their true natures.
Sure.
Pastries are extremely important.
He grumbled and shook his head so vigorously I could almost hear the noise it was making. So like what? I tilted my head in confusion.
Something like, I don't know, a little favor.
Oh no. Favor? What? What did you mean like a... Wait, did you mean like a favor, or... Kamishiro didn't reply, simply flashing a grin. After a moment, I answered my own question. Oh, okay. You didn't mean anything dirty, right? I'm sorry. I got confused for a second. You said it was nothing important after all, didn't you? I scratched my head.
All the evidence is suggesting to exact opposite of what you just said.
I scratched my head in embarrassment, but Kamishiro looked surprised.
Wow, good to know you have such pride in your body image, big sis. I'm surprised.
Oh yeah, she actually thinks she's hot, and he's surprised about that. Surprised? Yeah. I rested my head on my hand and looked at him, asking for clarity once more. So, by favor, you meant...
Well, you might not have guessed as much, but despite my looks, I have quite a sexual appetite.
Okay. Yeah, keep going.
Oh, me. Besides, it's a given in spy movies that the hero gets the girl after it's all over, and you have just the kind of lewd face that would drive any man wild.
Okay then. Kamishiro
what is this, fucking male Jill?
Kamishiro puffed out his chest in pride. That's not something you should puff out your chest at.
Would you prefer I puff something else out? Anyway, how about you puff out your chest, big sis? Come on, it wouldn't hurt to try. Puff out that plump, sweet, round chest of yours.
Well-rounded chest, actually, but Jesus Christ, okay.
Holy
the end of the quote. Bro laughed after that. I could only shudder at his ulterior motives shone through his wicked smile. Do you happen to know where that sweet innocent boy from earlier went?
Anyway, I'm looking forward to dealing with the incident in more ways than one. I just have one request. Please refrain from bathing him till then.
Whoa!
I much prefer dirty bodies, if you know what I mean.
Whoa! Okay.
Good fucking lord. He's actually serious.
Bro likes the sweat and the musk and shit. Okay. There's gotta be a manual on how to reset you back to how you were. Dealing with him was suddenly much more difficult than before.
Well then...
Ignoring my embarrassment, Kamishiro clapped his hands loudly.
It seems we're in agreement regarding payment, so it's time for me to begin.
Wait, I don't think she agreed to whatever the hell you're... He jogged over the door and waved his hand innocently.
She didn't say no. See you later.
He called as if it were a small child going out to play, and then ran out the lab, laughing in the same eerie laugh. Wait a second, I never agreed to... The door slammed, stopping my shout before it could reach its destination. I never agreed to anything. I muttered fruitlessly to myself as I sat down on the bed exhausted. But it was only a verbal agreement. I'm not sure such a one-sided agreement can even really be called an agreement, really. It was maybe my fault for not asserting myself more, though. And for a one-sided agreement, it was way too one-sided. If a feminist group saw what just happened, they'd be rallying immediately. Although, well, it really has nothing to do with me. Yep, I should just ignore it. If I ignore it, it'll all turn out fine. Is she implying that if this guy fucks her, she'll just forget about it, so it's not her problem?
I mean, that is the best way to look at this.
That's wild. I'm not sure if that's the implication there, but if that is, because that's kind of how I read that, that's crazy. I muttered to no one in particular, yep, I should just ignore it. If I ignore it, it'll all turn out fine. I muttered to no one in particular, laying back down on the bed. Before long, I heard...
That's gonna happen now. I guess Matsuda won't be popping that cherry.
Matsuda, you have work to do. That's all I gotta say. Before long, I heard the lab's door opening. I mean, to be fair, this gets really fucked.
Find out.
This is really fucked, but how do you know he hasn't already? It's not like she would remember.
That is true. That is true.
It's so fucked up. Before long, I heard the lab's door opening again. I thought Kamishiro might have come back for something further, but instead... Like, it's so wild to think that, like, he could act, like, all, like, lovey-dovey and, like, spill his feelings out to her and just make sure that she's not allowed to write it in her notebook, and then he could then just act like a tsundere asshole again after.
Very true.
It's crazy.
And now our boy knows that as well.
Jesus. But instead, my heart jumped at the sight of the slender, fair-skinned man at the door. Ah, Matsuda! As though I were a sprinter, I leapt up and ran straight into his chest, hugging him tightly. Ah, you're late! I've been waiting for so long! The body I was embracing was awfully stiff. Huh? Is something wrong? I'd like to continue our conversation from earlier. What conversation? I had no clue what he was talking about. I had already forgotten it. Yeah, he did say he wanted to continue it at the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
He left. But I didn't care, even if I couldn't remember what happened before. As long as Matsuda is here, everything is fine. Did we talk about something before? I tilted my head and then buried my face deep in his chest, releasing a purring giggle. I don't even know what that would sound like, but okay. My head remained buried there for a while. I thought he would chastise me for getting him dirty, but instead his tone was something bordering on mournful. I'm sorry. I looked up at him surprised. What are you sorry about? Matsuda stared at my face for a short while, then coughed lightly to himself. No, it's fine if you don't remember. But in any case, I'm sorry. He repeated, looking away.
Losing the tsundere a bit there.
Yeah. I didn't understand what he meant, but for some reason my chest tightened with emotion, replacing the thunderous beating on my heart. I buried my face deep in his chest again, and as I stand there, swallowed inside his chest, I start forgetting. All the dirt and filth that clung to the inside of my body crumbles into nothingness, leaving nothing but a pure, empty feeling. Everything in the universe outside of the two of us in this small room is insignificant. Nothing matters except this very moment, right now. And this is like her falling back in to the brainwash.
Crap.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not 100%, I'm not totally convinced that's what's happening, but it's definitely written that way. I'm a little worried about his sudden apology, but even that isn't such a big deal compared to this moment's happiness. Right now, this very moment, that's the only important thing in the world. I don't understand anything but this moment. Nothing exists for me. See, it's like she's even like repeating it in her mind. Nothing exists for me except this moment. All I can and want to remember is this moment. And that's why I want to bury myself deep in this moment's happiness. By the way, how did you get out of the rope? I suddenly heard Matsuda's voice from somewhere above my head. What rope? You don't even remember how you escaped that knot? No, I'm sorry. I really can't leave you alone for a second, can I? Honestly true, facts. I'm sorry.
Literally, yeah.
Like, she gets into some crazy shit when she's not around you. Matsuda shook his head and sighed, but his mouth was curled into a smirk as he chuckled. Anyway, you're starting to hurt me. Oh, come on, just a little longer. I pleaded like a spoiled child, receiving a sigh in return. Oh, this dumb bitch. As I felt his body relax and soften, I was immersed in a feeling of satisfaction and victory. As if at that moment I could grasp the entire world inside my fist. This is my world. This alone is my world. I closed my eyes, a feeling of euphoria flooding over me. I could hear the beating of his heart inside his chest. That constant beat was the final blessing for me. The girl who has now held everything she ever wanted in her hands. Yep, the whole world in her hands. Even that's like Junko.
Oh my god.
The parade, whispered Matsuda suddenly. Did you say something? I asked, keeping my eyes closed. Somehow, the parade outside is growing louder again. It's like a metaphor for like things are brewing. I tried listening, but thump thump. I couldn't hear anything but the beating of his heart. There's no one here except for me and Matsuda. Nothing other than that has anything to do with me. And right now, there wasn't even anything left to say anymore. For a while longer, I kept my face buried in my beloved Matsuda's chest. Then, I reluctantly parted with my beloved Matsuda and returned to my room that didn't have my beloved Matsuda in it. I thought of my beloved Matsuda as I took off my shoes. I whispered my beloved Matsuda's name as I climbed into bed.
Oh, will you stop it already?
And then I drifted into sleep where dreams of my beloved Matsuda awaited me. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else had anything to do with me anymore. Are we sure he didn't give her another dose of whatever the fuck?
Dopamine is a powerful thing.
Yeah, all of a sudden she got hardcore like yandere horny again for Matsuda.
Fucking nutty.
All right, that was chapter 12. We talked a lot about different shit, so that took a while, but yeah, chapter 12. Kamishiro was back.
I mean, that was still a long chapter regardless.
Yeah, it was a fairly long chapter, but it's hard to tell how long because we talked a bunch. But Kamishiro came back and had a chat with Ryoko. So he's kind of just popping in and out of the story now, Kamishiro.
It's nice break of the usual stuff right here with Matsuda. Now that it seems like her allies are swaying a little bit, you know, as our boy even said, she needs more allies here than just what she has in Matsuda, and he's kind of claimed her as his own, at least for one night.
Yeah, Matsuda's kind of just like, he just keeps leaving, and like we don't know exactly what he's doing, and then like.
He's working on the comatose girl, isn't he?
Yeah, probably, but it's interesting because we're not getting context. Which is interesting because they've done Matsuda perspectives earlier in the story, but we're not really seeing what he's actually going off and doing. because we know this story has no problem doing small chapters. So like even if it was just like, hey, here's a little bit of what's going on there, and let's get back to Ryoko. So yeah, I don't know. And then obviously like her allies are Kamishiro seems to genuinely want to help her, even if he has ulterior motives, and depending on perspective, I suppose Junko is potentially trying to quote-unquote help her as well.
Yeah.
Again, depending on... It's one of those things, it's like, I think she is legitimately trying to help Ryoko, but it's more of a matter of, is that help what we want to actually happen in the end?
I don't see any positive sides to any of this, so I cannot
it really
comment.
doesn't. It really feels like no matter where this goes, it's not going to end well.
That is a negatory.
But you never know, though, because, I mean, we saw with the first Danganronpa game that they kind of set it up to be, near the end, it was kind of that thing where it was like there was no winning, and then we kind of got a relatively happy ending out of it, kind of.
Relatively, sure.
I wouldn't say it was like a full-blown, but, it worked out better than it looked like it would. Anyways, anything else, or are you ready to keep going?
I'm ready to go.
All right, Chapter 13. Hope's Peak Academy, East District, the courtyard. The lights from the surrounding facilities were long gone. Only the street lamps, installed at fixed intervals, made an effort to illuminate the darkness. In front of the clock tower on the edge of the courtyard stood a lone teenage girl. She squinted, looking at the tower before her.
A new character?
I'm not sure. Because, I'm thinking, because it could be Junko or Mukuro, but that's...
If it is, you can just take it back over again,
I'll let you start. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is you're going to do it until we find out who it is.
Anytime now.
She muttered quietly to herself. The girl was first waiting for someone. When she first contacted the man, he coldly refused to meet her, insisting that it wasn't necessary. But once she'd brought up some sensitive information, she found him much more open to the suggestion. It wasn't hard, after all.
Jesus Christ, this whole thing is nothing but a bunch of manipulators.
She made her livelihood discovering people's secrets.
Is there even one character in Zero that's a good person?
I will say, they're focusing on, these, kind of mysterious, kind of, we're not getting the, fun, silly characters. The silliest character is Kamishiro, but he's a spy, and there's clearly a dark side to him. And he's, the silliest character. And I guess Ryoko, but she's also clearly, sus as fuck.
Are we sure that this school doesn't just fucking breed devils?
I know, right? At least there's a Hina and a Makoto in there, but yeah.
Bro, Hina was willing to kill all of them.
That's true, but I feel like Hina, even though she was wrong to do that, it's easy to understand her plight, and it came from a good place, even if it was an awful thing that she was trying to do.
She still just gave in.
Yeah, sure.
In the end,
yeah, they had to pull her out of the gutter of despair, but anyways.
Ironically, the best example is kind of Hero, because he's too stupid to be bad.
And if she didn't know much about someone in particular, it was far better for her to meet them in person. The hunger for notoriety is a scary thing. Even when it seems impossible to attain, people are determined to reach greatness. And so she waited for a member of Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee. She needed to meet them, no matter the cost, and it needed to be face-to-face. There was a certain truth that the committee were earnestly trying to hide. A truth even her client, Hope's Peak Academy's headmaster, most likely did not know. Okay, so she's working for the headmaster. The only avenue of investigation was to question a committee member directly, one-on-one. She had reached this decision only a few short days after setting out on her investigation. Her formidable talent led her to it. Her name was Kyoko Kirigiri.
Let's go!
There it is.
Yes!
Not only is she here, we're getting Kyoko perspective.
Yes, at last.
Yep. And okay, so Daddy hired her, essentially, then.
Interesting.
to look into this, because even though Daddy knows a
that's so
lot,
cool.
Daddy hired Kyoko to look into the steering committee because Daddy believes that there's things that even he's being kept in the dark from by the steering committee.
And she came here to sever ties with him and ended up being his fucking employee.
Woo! Yeah, I know. I was thinking about this too. I was like, yeah, I know she's coming up pretty soon. And so I was like, I kept bringing it up.
We
and
literally
I was like,
brought her up earlier.
I know. There's nothing I can say, though. I just have to go with it. But I knew she was coming. And now, so are you, I guess. But, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. She was a student.
And suddenly, I lost all interest in following Ryuko anymore.
Yeah, they're one letter off in their names, so it shouldn't be
And
hard
that's
to
driving me nuts.
She was a student in Hope's Peak Academy's 78th class and bore the title of Ultimate Detective. And this is also like
God, that's
full
so cool.
memory.
We just
met
the ultimate spy, and now the ultimate detective's
I mean,
in
it
here.
makes sense.
And yeah,
like in this story, she fits the theme
this
of the
is
characters.
full memory
in this story.
Kirigiri.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. This is full. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
This is our first time seeing her with her memories.
We're gonna see her in the DC. This is a short chapter that'll piss me off.
I have no idea.
We're gonna see her in the context of some familiar faces.
We'll have to see.
She has her own little circle.
I will say though, so far, like that's the thing you were
Perhaps
talking
we'll
about.
get a scene of her and Jin.
And you even talked about it with her before we found out who this girl was. She fits the theme of the characters in this. Like all of the characters are kind of a certain vibe, and she fits into that kind of vibe. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, more like I said, it's like this is very like a mystery. It's a mystery story, but there's a different vibe. Like I said, you got spies, you got detectives, you got whoever the fuck Madurai was. It's all kind of dark and mysterious, and she kind of fits into that pretty well. Anyways, she was.
Like they gave us his ultimate title.
Madurai? I don't think so.
I thought they did when he came up at first.
I don't think so.
It's not important now. He's dead.
She was a student in Hope's Peak Academy's 78th class and bore the title of Ultimate Detective. And right now, she was employed by Hope's Peak's headmaster to investigate a certain incident. I love the way they're like even framing it, right? It's like there's a distance between Jin and Kyoko. Like in her mind, she was employed by the headmaster.
Well, she's probably already had the talk with him.
Potentially, but either way, it's kind of one of those things where it's like...
But that's kind of the weird thing as well, is that, like, the explanation in Danganronpa is just, she came here to sever ties with Potato Head, but that doesn't explain why she's still enrolled here anyway.
Well, obviously.
And made her secret ultimate title public.
Sure. Well, I think it's probably because she convinced herself. She basically fooled herself because deep down she probably did want to reconcile with him, but at her core, in her consciousness she didn't, but in her subconscious level she did.
So let's see what a unamnesiaed and however long she's been here Kirigiri is like.
Yes. She was a student in Hope's Peak Academy's 78th class and bore the title of Ultimate Detective. And right now, she was employed by Hope's Peak's headmaster to investigate a certain incident.
Matsuda?
No, this is her. This is Kyoko.
No, I'm just assuming. Because it said he's late.
Oh, no, she's meeting a member of the steering committee.
Oh, yes, of course. He's late.
She muttered, looking up at the clock tower. Oh my god, I actually would really love a Kyoko and Matsuda interaction, though. That sounds really fun. She muttered, looking up at the clock tower once more. 5 minutes late.
I should have told him to be strictly on time.
She frowned, a crease appearing between her brows. But the moment she lowered her eyes from the clock, the crease disappeared. There was the figure of a man in the distance. The figure glanced around, seemingly on guard, then proceeded slowly toward where she was standing. Slowly, his features became clearer. He was an old man wearing a pitch-black suit and matching pitch-black necktie, as if he were on the way back from a funeral. His grizzled hair was unnaturally stiff with pomade? I'm not actually sure, and seemed almost artificial, some sort of probably like a product you put in your hair, I'd guess. As the man neared, his face became clearer as well. His forehead was covered with deep wrinkles that seemed to be chiseled directly into his skull, and the sunken eyes below them glared at Kyoko with a disgusted expression. Rude?
Bro, you're looking at a fucking goddess in front of you and you're disgusted?
Like, we all know that my heart belongs to a different goddess that's also in this story, but nonetheless, Kyoko is still Kyoko.
Seriously.
I have a figure for her for a reason. The distance between the two narrowed, and finally, when there were only 3 meters or so separating them, the man stopped.
Was it you who called me here?
His mouth, drawn across his face in a straight line, asked the question in a gritty and harsh tone.
What the hell did...
His words were cut short. Something fell from the sky, landing in front of the Kyoko, and both the man and his words were crushed.
What the fuck?
Bro, let Junko/Junkuro/Mukuro cook? Question mark? It has to be. That's too ridiculous for it to not involve them. It almost seemed like slow motion, or perhaps like viewing individual frames of a film reel one at a time. That's a wild thing. I know she's a detective, but that would be a wild thing even for Kyoko to see happen right in front of her.
Honestly.
The school desk. It was a desk!
What? What? What?
The school desk that came flying down from the sky hit the man directly on the head. The man's body twisted and collapsed from the impact, while the desk bounced back into the air in recoil. At that point, another desk came flying down from above and smashed into the fallen man's waist, bending his body backward like a trampled ragdoll. This would look so metal in anime form. Holy shit.
But in real life, as Kyoko's viewing it, it's like, what the fuck is
Actually,
going on?
what the fuck? Then yet another airborne desk fell and twisted his neck unnaturally upon impact. The man's face had no time to show surprise. It was stuck in the same expression as when he called out to Kyoko. With the continuous falling desks, an enormous dust cloud was swept up, obscuring the man entirely. An overdue, intense crashing noise finally registered in Kyoko's ears. At the same moment, a desk came flying out from inside the dust cloud, missing her by mere inches. Jesus!
What is going on?
As it landed behind her, it briefly spun like a top. It was a freakish development. A development with no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, it really was.
That's crazy. The man who moments ago stood in front of Kyoko had been crushed by a number of falling school desks as soon as he opened his mouth. The way that this chapter was starting, I was not expecting that. I will admit, I totally forgot this happened.
I mean, what? You can't just bring in a character like Kyoko and then just fucking do whatever this is.
Holy shit, dude. Oh, man. It only took a few seconds at most. Kyoko's thought process was interrupted for a moment, but only for a moment. As the dust began to settle, she ran to the mountain of desks and began shifting them. There was already a deep red puddle next to the man, who was now buried beneath the rubble. So this is another... absurdity aside, this is another steering committee member that's been murdered now. So it seems like they're taking them out one by one now. Dark liquid seeped from his eyes, nose, and ears, and as well as what felt like countless other places. Kyoko's mind quickly changed course. She turned her head to look above her. A vague silhouette stood atop the school building, slowly coming into focus. It was a human figure illuminated by moonlight from behind.
We've really got to stop meeting at night.
I know, right? The strange figure brandished something above its head and then threw it. It was a pipe chair, and it was flying straight toward Kyoko. Holy shit!
Jesus Christ.
No witnesses. She ran into the building before her, keeping as low to the ground as she could. Are we getting like a Kyoko action scene? Like, let's fucking go.
Jesus Christ, Kyoko fucking fighting.
That would be cool.
Now
That
does sound pretty cool.
Like, obviously, I don't expect her to be, one of the top tier, but she's probably pretty good, if I had to guess. She ran into the building before, keeping as low
Well, what's
to the
the
ground.
top tier? Just Sakura and Mukuro?
I feel like Mondo's probably higher.
Yeah, Mondo.
Because, I mean, he was the ultimate biker gang leader. I mean, like, obviously his brother...
Higher than who? Just Kyoko?
Yeah, higher than Kyoko.
Yeah, because he's not beating Sakura.
Oh, no, well, nobody
And he's
is.
most likely not beating Mukuro.
The only person that might have a chance is Mukuro with weapons.
Yeah. I mean, even then, Ultimate Soldier, she probably knows, like, very sussy, like, techniques to just paralyze the body or whatever.
And maybe, but I'm just would assume that hand to hand, Sakura is winning that fight. But yeah,
Probably.
All things like anything goes. That's more interesting. Anyways, I actually lost... Yeah, pipe chair... Okay, yeah. She ran into the building before her, keeping as low to the ground as she could while another crashing noise came from behind. At that point, it didn't even matter to her whether she had made a target of herself or not. She was running solely to pursue a lead, in an adrenaline rush that erased any sense of danger from her mind. That feels very Kyoko. Just like she's so focused on the lead that she's just not even worried about herself.
Yeah, that's fair.
In no time at all, she reached the landing at the top floor and found the remains of a padlock in front of the door that led to the roof, so someone broke into the roof.
This school really should consider buffing up security.
Yeah, especially given the fact that, like, the people in this school are, like, either way too strong, way too smart, like...
Yeah.
She grasped the doorknob, feeling the faint cold of metal through her gloves. As she twisted it, the door opened easily and noiselessly. Immediately, the strong, cold night wind blew past her body. She took a single cautious step and scanned the roof, which was dimly illuminated by starlight. There was no one there. That makes sense. It would have took a little while to get to the roof.
Yeah.
She walked around the rooftop, thoroughly checking the area near the door and every other place where a person could conceivably be hiding in the shadows. Nevertheless, she couldn't find anyone.
I'm too late.
Overcome by frustration, she leaned back against the iron fence surrounding the roof. I could use fan art of that. Then she looked up at the sky and quietly grumbled to herself.
This is why I hate my job.
Yeah,
Really?
you almost got killed.
You don't like being a detective?
I can see her
That's
having
a big contrast.
an interesting relationship with her profession.
I mean, it seems like she just loved it in first game.
I think she enjoys solving mysteries and finding the truth. But there's a lot of, like, I'm sure, shitty parts to that job as well.
I guess, as there is with every job.
Almost getting killed by a flying chair and flying desk certainly is interesting.
Not on the list of things I wanted today.
Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down her back. Something wasn't right. She quickly turned around, looked into the courtyard through the fence. Her face caught the cold night wind, and for a moment her vision felt cloudy. Around the clock tower, she could see the wreckage of school desks and the single chair. Of course, they were there. But the dead body that should have been there wasn't. What is going on with these disappearing bodies?
Yeah, because this isn't Junko.
I mean, I don't even know who was throwing. Like, maybe Mukuro. Like, I don't even know who that could have been throwing the desks. I mean, again, I don't know. Like, either way,
Yeah. Because
We'll
they're still
see, I
implying
guess.
that, like, Junko's doing the killings, or at least her start.
It seems like Junko has been
someone
killing
else is
yeah.
taking the bodies.
Yeah, it seems like Junko's been killing these potatoes. That seems pretty clear. Junko Mukuro, again, whatever. But, yeah, I don't know what's up with the bodies. That's really weird. It's almost like there's a third party that's like, not, I don't even know, like I wouldn't even say necessarily on anyone's side. They're just like, I don't know. Weird stuff, though. Anyways, Kyoko gritted her teeth as she pulled her cell phone from her uniform's pocket. Just as she was about to push the call button, a hint of hesitation appeared on her face. Regardless, she pressed it. After only a moment, she heard a man's voice in reply.
Are you free right now? There's something I need to report directly. I'll be there soon.
Ooh,
So,
I think
Jin?
we're gonna get our Jin and Kyoko scene.
Oh, it only took way too long.
Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. So let's see what we got here. So anything to say about chapter 13? Kyoko's here. She's arrived in the story.
And she better be prominent throughout the whole thing now.
We're gonna have
Because
to
the
see.
only
I mean,
character that's kind of gone is one that died.
so it is interesting because, well, I mean, different characters have had different roles. Like, Kamashiro's been pretty... He's only really had 2 appearances so far. But...
Yeah, but they're implying a lot more is going to come with
Sure.
him now.
They're
He's a
kind of
fresh
in
one.
the same... They're kind of in the same boat, Kyoko and Kamashiro. We don't really know why. It seems like Kamashiro's just curious, and that seems like why he's investigating all this, whereas Kyoko has been directly hired, whatever that means, by Jin. And it does seem like Jin is asking Kyoko to specifically look into the steering committee because Jin already knows most of what's going on. Not that he's telling anyone or us, and probably not even Kyoko, but Jin just feels like there's more being kept from him, which is a different perspective than us or whoever. But yeah, so, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the process of Kyoko looking for the stuff that Jin wants, she also figures out a bunch of other stuff regarding a grander scope of what's going on. But we'll have to see. Because we know, obviously, Kyoko can't completely figure it out. Because, you know, unless she gets, like... unless something really weird happens. Because, obviously, again, all the crazy shit that Junko does happen. So we do have that context. And she is going to succeed to some extent, so... But we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting. But, yeah, anything else about Chapter 13? That was obviously much shorter than Chapter 12.
Not enough Kyoko.
Well, hopefully there'll be plenty more. Obviously there will be
That'll
more, because at the very least we have to have the conversation with Jin, and that's probably not going to be the end of her job.
Yeah. So let's do it.
Chapter 14. It was a few minutes after Kyoko Kirigiri had disappeared from the roof. Bzzzt! A strange sound, as if the very air was being torn like paper, echoed through the East District courtyard.
Ta-da! Taser gun!
I'm leaning... Yeah, I'll let you do it, but I'm leaning this is probably Junko just because it's really silly.
Half this cast is just silly.
I mean, the only other girl that I feel like, not even Ryuko would do that. Yeah, well, we'll see. Unless it's a new character.
She
again.
wouldn't do it.
It could be another new character.
I mean,
though.
it could be our spy boy.
Exclaimed the high school girl. So,
Oh.
touting a pistol-shaped object in her hands, her eyes were focused on the 2 collapsed security guards lying before her. Okay, this is most likely Junko. They took out security guards. This is either Junko or some actual crazy bitch. Both were face down, and each had a small, thin...
Take that!
She cried and pulled the trigger again. Bzz, bzz,
Oh my
bzz.
god, the fucker actually said to take that after triggering.
No! I didn't even take that! No!
Really? That's all you said in the trials.
I know. It's so good. So she's literally just like... It's a taser gun. So she's just... Yeah, this girl, whoever this is tasing guys who are unconscious. The bodies of the 2 men who were already unconscious shook and spasmed along with the violent noise. crazed, ecstatic grin appeared on the girl's face as she watched them. Junko Enoshima, of course. Fucking hell, Junko. What the fuck? She yawned loudly. She
So
had no
Junko
makeup
is
on.
confirmed an AA fan, huh?
Well, I mean, why would she make a trial system for her killing game if she wasn't an AA fan?
Because television.
I don't know what television she'd be getting that from. She yawned loudly. She had no makeup on, as though she had just climbed out of bed. In her hands was indeed a taser gun. By pulling the trigger, a thin needle and wire would fly out from the gun to the target's body and deliver an intense electric current. Normally, a weapon like that wouldn't kill the target, but since she'd modified it to send a much stronger current, it wouldn't be so strange if someone did die.
Oh my god.
In truth, it was just to ensure she always had the upper hand. Her very own self-defense weapon for despair.
Jesus Christ.
I love her so much. She continued playing with the taser gun for a short while, but soon grew bored of it. She pulled the wires away from the guards' bodies with her bare hands. Well, that takes care of that. It seems Little Miss Kindaichi, I'm assuming that's a reference, because I believe she's probably talking about Kyoko, also disappeared to who knows where.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Maybe
we'll meet
a
face to face.
detective anime.
Yeah, probably. I feel like I've seen that name before, but I just don't know what from, so it's probably an anime manga thing.
Cowboy Bebop?
I don't think so. But
I have no idea.
it just seems familiar. Like, Kindaichi rings a bell. Also disappeared to who knows where. I wonder if we'll meet face to face. Yeah, you will. She let out a theatrical sigh of relief and walked majestically across the plaza and toward the clock tower. She made no attempt to hide herself at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. She exhibited a sense of presence that seemed to scream at people to look at her. It also had the sinister suggestion that by doing so, they might end up dead. That said, I never expected Detective Et Conan.
That I do
I know that
recognize as a
one.
reference.
Yep, case closed, Detective Conan, whatever you want to call it. One of the longest anime of all time. But yeah, dude, she really is like the reference queen. I mean, we talk about the fourth wall breaking, but she also just makes
This
way
girl
too
has
many
more references than Hifumi.
Oh, that's terrifying, but true. That said, I never expected Detective Et Conan to stick her nose into my business. I mean, it's clearly the headmaster's fault for meddling. Oh, don't worry, you'll get your revenge on him soon enough.
Oh, yeah.
But my plans for this scenario didn't include her at all. So what am I to do? I mean, it is interesting to have her around, but it's also possible she'll get in the way of my beautifully orchestrated, hey, wait. Oh, of course, she's like, you know, she wasn't supposed to be in Danganronpa 0, but it is kind of fun to have her around.
Well, I guess she is a fan favorite, so I'll let it slide.
I'm damn near waiting for her to say that shit, yeah. She stopped abruptly as if about to trip forward and stared at the wreckage of school desks in front of her. The moment she saw it, the cruel smile that was plastered on her face melted. There's no dead body.
Who's taking my fucking bodies, man?
I know, right? The words felt as heavy as lead while they poured from her mouth. It happened again. This is so fucking despair-inducing. So despair-inducing, it's like a wild dream. Her face once again twisted into a smile. Laughing, she kicked the pipe chair that lay at her feet. She didn't seem to use much strength, but all the same, the chair flew a few meters, hit a street lamp that was in its way, and shot off into the air like a ping pong ball.
Yes.
Holy shit. Then, as the reverberating sound disappeared from the plaza, the figure of Junko Enoshima disappeared as well, vanishing like a shadow. Really short little Junko chapter there.
But still grand nonetheless, and I got to voice Junko for a little bit.
Yep. As is only appropriate. Well, you know what? That little interlude, hopefully we go back to your girl. now.
Yeah. We're starting to get familiar characters now, and me likey.
In fact, I just peeked at chapter
Me
15,
likey
and
indeed.
yeah, it looks like you're gonna about to get your wish.
Interesting, these chapters don't have titles to them.
No, not even
There
the
are a
2
lot of them,
volumes
to
or
be fair.
anything. Yeah, they didn't bother. Yeah, that's fair. There's like, yeah, when the game is
Could have just called the last one, "Hey, Kyoko's here."
That would be funny, but there was, to be fair, an actual reveal in that chapter about Kyoko.
Yeah, that's the thing. You could have done the chapter titles in the way of like Junko writing them, just like, "Hey, Kyoko's here.
That would be funny.
Do whatever you want. I don't give a fuck."
That would be amusing. Anyways, you ready for chapter 15?
Oh yeah. What was that?
Kyoko Kirigiri instinctively stopped moving. She thought she'd heard a sound like a bell clanging, but when she listened attentively, the corridor was as still and silent as ever. Wonder if she heard the fucking desk go flying just now.
Possibly. Did I imagine it?
Usually
You don't imagine things.
Yeah, honestly. Usually she would have stopped and investigated until she was satisfied, but right now she had far more pressing matters to attend to. Thus she began walking once again and hurried off toward her destination.
You know, it's kind of pitch black at night. It's kind of hard to do that with any of your detective gear on you.
Fair. Under normal circumstances, students were forbidden from entering the faculty building for Hope's Peak Academy. That was brought up earlier with Matsuda. But Ryoko...
Yep.
God damn it, I did it. Kyoko
no.
carried along through the hallway at a brisk pace. The sound of her footsteps was the only noise in the corridor. There was no sign of any others in the building as well. She hadn't passed anyone on the way here, and she most likely wouldn't pass anyone going forward. Regardless, she arrived at her destination quicker than anticipated. A plaque reading Headmaster's Office adorned the door in front of her. Kyoko glared at it for a moment and then pushed the door open without knock. Here you go, Jin and Kyoko. You were asking for it.
Oh, let's do it, sunshine.
Yep.
You're already here. That was fast.
Jin Kirigiri, who was sitting at a desk deep inside the office, smiled. Kyoko surveyed the room quickly, as was her habit when entering an unfamiliar place. Oh, has she never been in here? Did
Guess
Jin
not.
hire her in some other manner? It looks like, so maybe at this point they've like...
Privately.
It seems like... Yeah, they probably haven't interacted that much then, up to this point. Interesting.
Well, I imagine she would have got her stuff off her chest first, since that was her main motive for being here.
Sure.
And as you know, as we already know from the first game, like even if she rejects him as her daddy, she still accepts him as her headmaster, client, superior, whatever.
It'll be interesting to see if we get into a little bit of their softs, though. Like, how professional this stays. Because Kyoko, both of them, that's something that they have in common from what we've seen. They both come across as, like, very professional individuals. I mean, this is the first time we've ever actually seen Kyoko, like, I guess, doing her job.
Kyoko.
Like, we've seen her do detective stuff in the game, but this is her actually on, like, a job.
Yeah.
But yeah. And, of course, with all of her memories, obviously. Anyways, Kyoko surveyed the room quickly, as was her habit when entering an unfamiliar place. It left one single impression on her. Messy. Yep. What seemed to be tremendous amounts of papers and documents, among other things, were spread throughout the room with no real regard to order.
I've been busy moving things, so I haven't had much of a chance to clean up just yet, and he instantly knew what she was thinking.
Okay, so it looks like they're going to refer to him as Kirigiri and her as Kyoko, it looks like, in this scene.
Yeah, because that's always the interesting thing about, like, what we kind of wonder about Japanese, families and whatnot, is, like, how do you prefer to each other in, like family group meetings or whatever?
Family, it would usually probably be, like, first names with family. But
yeah,
obviously they're in a unique case.
Dinners or whatever, it's like family members, like husband and wife with the same surname and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like really close, it's usually would be like first names.
Yeah.
But same with like really close friends or whatever. But Kirigiri noted, scratching his head. Kyoko's reply was a simple, cold, and indifferent stare. She moved straight on to the subject at hand, indicating no interest in small talk.
I met with one of the members of the steering committee, but someone interfered.
Kirigiri was about to interject, but Kyoko moved on.
He was killed. More to the point, he was killed right in front of me. Killed? However, his corpse quickly disappeared soon after. Disappeared?
Despite only managing to repeat her words, Kirigiri's face grew deeply concerned. Kyoko, more or less ignoring him, continued to speak in the same indifferent tone.
But isn't it odd? They killed someone right in front of me. But then they hid the body. I don't know whether they were trying to show off, but from there, what purpose does hiding the body serve? Something feels off. Wrong.
It definitely seems like, yeah, because it's like the Junko is committing these murders, and then a third party is trying to cover them up.
Yeah.
Like I said, unless it's a character we haven't met, out of the cast we have right now, the only person I could think of is Matsuda.
Possibly, yeah.
Because if he's trying to keep Ryoko like as far away from anything about Junko as possible, then maybe trying to hide these murders is part of that mindset. And if he really is like this deep into this shit, maybe he wouldn't be beneath hiding bodies.
Definitely seems like he has a bit of yandere in him, so
it's hard
yeah,
for
it feels
me
like
to...
he would do whatever is needed.
Don't feel very confident at all about that, but I feel like out of the cast we have, he's the only person that I can really conceive doing that out of who we have so far. Anyways, Kyoko seemed to be getting more and more passionate as she went on, not allowing Kirigiri the chance to interrupt.
Furthermore, didn't another committee member go missing yesterday? If that's the case, he may also be in danger. We should find a way to contact and warn him. No, not just him. The whole committee is also... Wait a second! Are you sure he was dead?
Kyoko said nothing, Yeah?
This guy does not have the detective poker face at all.
No.
He is way too expressive.
He's very smart, but he really isn't a detective.
Yeah.
I get why he's the headmaster of Hope's Peak, but he's definitely not like, his last name would suggest.
Yeah.
Kyoko said nothing, but her grim face was all the answer he needed. Kirigiri felt the strength drain from his body and sank back into his chair.
Why? That's just...
He heard Kyoko letting out a long, slow sigh in response to his question.
Aside from the fact that the body was hidden, I have a theory as to why he was killed. You do?
Kirigiri slapped his hands on the desk energetically like an Ace Attorney character, as though he were about to rise once more.
Tell me, why?
Watching him, Kyoko felt a sense of disappointment washing over her. The feeling showed itself in her eyes, which seemed to be asking why he couldn't even figure this out on his own.
This is the man whose seed I came from.
Yep, he didn't even seem to notice her disappointed expression.
Please tell me.
Kyoko let out another deep sigh and answered quietly.
Making that big of a show when killing someone likely means it's a warning. And if that's the case, I think it's safe to assume members of the steering committee are being killed because of the tragedy.
Jin Kirigiri swallowed what little saliva remained in his dry mouth.
So you know about that already? About the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy? To a certain extent.
The response was unexpectedly blunt, Kirigiri thought as a frown began to form on his face.
I see.
He rose slowly from his chair, blinking in an attempt to fully take in her words before asking another question.
So, in short, members of the steering committee are being killed because we chose to cover up the tragedy?
That's the thing.
No.
Like, that's the thing, like, even the way he phrases that. He's not a member of the steering committee, but he even phrases it as because we chose to cover up the tragedy. Because he's involved in the cover-up of the tragedy, as we saw.
Yeah,
like,
he has
that
the
goes
most
beyond
power.
the steering committee.
He's the
He doesn't have
headmaster.
Yeah, but they did basically say that the steering committee basically are the puppeteers from the shadows of this school. So they kind of it's like a thing where they kind of like unofficially outrank him.
No.
Anyways.
There's more to it than that. The steering committee hasn't just been covering up the existence of the incident. They've been hiding something else. Something important. I think that's why he was killed.
Kirigiri took a moment to measure his response, replying with a thoughtful mutter.
Perhaps it's because the committee knows the identity of the culprit and has been hiding it. You know about that?
For the first time since she entered the room, Kyoko's eyes met Kirigiri's.
I figured you didn't know about the culprit being hidden. I didn't think you'd give me this job if you did. I see. You were also involved with their concealment.
Her words carried a hint of anger.
No, that's not it.
He quickly shook his head, defending himself.
I was never told of any kind of plan to conceal the culprit. That's something the steering committee had decided by themselves. For that matter, they haven't told me anything directly. I've been investigating things myself.
Kyoko's frown grew deeper.
You did your own investigation?
And of course, that would piss her off even more because he rejected...
He literally left her to not be a detective, and he's fucking doing detective work.
But he's still, like, it's still... In a weird way,
still in his blood.
You would think it would be part of his job as a headmaster, but as we kind of found out, with this school, it kind of is.
Oh, we might be getting an image based on how much space is here.
I think we are. I think we're going to get... I mean, it's got to be Kyoko, right?
All them together.
It could be both.
That's not that strange, is it?
Kirigiri gave
bit
a
of smile.
Yep.
I've been doing all I can. I mean, I do have the blood of a detective family running through it. Stop it!
Yeah,
Oh,
that
crap.
was not the right thing to say to Kyoko.
I don't even know how to do an angry Kyoko voice.
Yeah,
Stop
I'd love
it!
to hear that. Yeah. Kyoko's voice rose into a shout. Kirigiri looked up in surprise and found her glaring at him. It's the bad thing is that he doesn't even recognize that he shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
She wasn't even trying to hide the anger boiling up inside her, and it was reflected in her eyes that glared at Kirigiri. She wasn't simply angry at her employer or her school's headmaster. She was angry at her detested father.
Don't you ever say it like some kind of sick joke.
And that's why
I'm sorry.
he had no choice but to apologize.
That was tasteless of me.
He bowed his head deeply. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
wild.
no shit, bro.
We got Kyoko, like, getting, like...
You, like, gave your kid abandonment issues and you're joking about the thing you rejected her for?
Yeah.
Hey, kind of a fucking asshole, bro.
I swear to God, if he actually was... Especially because it seems like she's come around so much to Jin. It would be so sad if it turns out that he's actually Makoto's father and Kyoko finds out. Because that would just be, like, so sus. Where it's like, wait, so you're telling me that this guy abandoned my family and just made his own?
Started another one?
Yeah, that would be even worse. But,
Good lord.
No, that was interesting. We got our first interaction between them. Now let's see what this picture is. Yep.
Oh my god, that's an attire.
Yeah, we're getting to see her in, like, a school uniform.
I kind of just pictured her in her regular stuff since it's outside of school hours.
But she's got to have the gloves, of course.
Oh, always the gloves, so that's still happened at this point.
And then you got Jin with his long-ass tie.
Looking good, though. I dig the attire. I dig it. The boots obviously still stay, but the attire itself, pretty nice.
I
Of
think
course,
those
the
are
hairdo didn't
socks,
change.
actually, because you could see the little Hope's Peak logo there.
Oh,
on them.
maybe.
Yeah. She's probably wearing, like, just like shoes.
Yeah, that's fair. Because that was part of just her own gear.
But great to see Kyoko in general, though. And of course, the art is fantastic because it's Danganronpa people.
They've been in the room together for 5 minutes, and he did the one thing that didn't happen in the entirety of the first game. She lost her shit.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's pretty fucking hilarious, honestly.
That is really funny. It's the fact that he didn't even, like, put it together at first, too. Makes it even worse.
It's even funnier that he probably has that image of him and holding Kyoko probably in that room right now.
Yep. Probably pointed towards him, not her, but either way, still. It could go either way, actually.
And his laptop password is Kyoko Kirigiri.
Yep, which she won't find out for a long time.
Unless she forgot.
Well, it's interesting, too, right? Because, like, he does have the tact to treat this, like, very professionally. So, like, prior to that, he didn't make, like, any blunders in their conversation. Because, like, he does understand to not, like, talk to her as, like, Detective Kirigiri and not his daughter Kyoko. But, like, I mean, it's weird because she's also a student at his school. But I think, especially with Hope's Peak, I think a lot of the teachers don't necessarily treat them like students. I think there is a bit of, like... the power dynamic is weird here because the teachers kind of, like, revere talent, and the students are those with talent. So it's, like, a weird dynamic that's, like, I feel like different from your typical school anyways, but...
It's very complicated.
Yeah,
but that's why it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a nice image, and probably the last time we'll see Kyoko physically. Unfortunately.
In this story, probably, because it's usually like just the one piece. So.
Yeah, one piece for each potato.
Which is cool, and that's why we didn't get a Jin one earlier, because they were going to do this one with him and Kyoko.
Yeah, and it's a nice piece.
Yep. Oh, Kyoko looks so good. Not huge on the outfit, but it doesn't matter. She looks amazing regardless.
Yep.
Anyways, I assume that
like
was the end of the
father, like
chapter.
goddamn daughter.
But I'm not sure. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
We keep going.
Nope. Got quite a bit left.
Yeah, at least a page, or at least a page and at least a page in pieces. His circumstances didn't matter. His own feelings didn't matter. From her point of view, he was simply a man who abandoned his family. That much was unquestionable. He didn't want to make any excuses. It's not like he could, anyway. But perhaps, at the very least, he could tell her his thoughts. No. He couldn't do that either.
Forget it.
He lifted his head at the plain response. Kyoko, now leaning against a bookcase on the wall, seemed cool and collected once more.
We've gotten off topic.
Yeah, you could say that.
You broke my perfect mask. I'll kill you.
She made it through a whole game, more or less. I mean, she had moments, like, she reacted, and, like, we saw things, but nothing to that extent.
Nothing in anger or rage.
No, not like that.
No.
Shock and horror came out at times to some extent, but not rage.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You're right.
He let out a deep sigh. However, he found himself unable to concentrate further. And it was then that Kyoko said something that surprised him. The cold, sharp words that spilled from her lips seemed to pierce like a sword.
It's Izuru Kamikuku... Kami... Yukaku, isn't it?
Izuru Kamakura.
Yeah, that.
You could call him Izuru.
Izuru.
Oh, they said the name!
Yeah, they said the name.
They said a name. Kirigiri reacted instinctively. His eyes, his fingertips, his breath. Kyoko didn't miss any part of his reaction.
So it is.
His entire body was arrested by the look she gave him. He remembered that look. No, he couldn't just remember it. She had the eyes of a detective family. The eyes he hated and feared. Interesting. The eyes that could pierce anyone's inner thoughts creep through their minds and leave nothing unrevealed. His own daughter glared at him with those intense, sharp eyes, and he felt his frown fade for just a moment.
As expected from an heir to the Kirigiri family, such astounding talent!
Oh, it's so weird because, like, Jin is interesting because he comes across as, like, such a, like, you know, nice, kind of normal guy. But we do know that he abandoned his family. And we also know, and this is a this is a really cool little moment because as we're finding out, Hope's Peak is fucked up and the people that work here are fucked up. And so, like, Jin being the headmaster, and from his speech at the beginning, like, he clearly believes in this talent stuff to a creepy degree as well. And this is one of the, like, first moments where he just has a little internal outburst. And this is such a weird thing to say about your daughter.
I mean, that's the thing. It's that he's here probably because he's passionate about talents, and it's like...
Because he's one of them, yeah.
A, Kyoko has an exceptional talent that she's good at, and B, it's like, he's her father, so it's like... Yes, he doesn't care about the detective name itself, but he's proud that she's
but it's
so
overall
good
like a talent
at what she's passionate about.
But it's like one of those moments, because up until this point, he's thinking of her as like, oh, this is my daughter, and like obviously it's awkward and stuff. But this is a moment where it's like he doesn't. This is this like one moment where he doesn't see his daughter in this moment. He sees, oh, she's so talented. This is like what we're trying to do at Hope's Peak Academy. He has that little like mark out moment for talent, which is kind of gets into the weird thing about Hope's Peak, where all the teachers and the headmaster and the steering committee all have this like creepy obsession with talent that is like that leads them to do crazy things like covering up mass murders and other weird shit. Whatever this Izuru Kamakura thing is, probably, like, their talent obsession goes into, like, this really creepy realm. It's almost like a cult, kind of, in a way.
Yeah, anyways, that is fair.
Yeah. They're the chosen.
That's a good way of putting it.
And the teachers and everyone.
The ones that shall lead us to a brighter future.
Yeah, they're looking for, Anyways. Your girl.
Is something funny?
Kyoko inquired, eyeing him carefully, slightly concerned that her father's looking at her with a creepy smile.
No, I was just admiring you.
The hint of a smile appeared on his face.
That doesn't make me feel much better.
I know, right? That just makes it seem creepier.
In such short time, you were able to find out Izuru Kamikurai, whatever the fuck.
Just call him
the
Izuru.
Tragedy of Hope's... Yeah, you found out about Izuru and the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. And as I asked, not only that, you also deduced that Izuru was responsible for it. Absolutely remarkable.
All I'll say is, Izuru Kamakura is a name worth remembering. And I'll leave it at that.
I see. Maybe I'll write it down then.
It's definitely worth writing down as far as just worth remembering. In what was nearly excitement, Kirigiri's words grew faster and faster.
Oh, this is Kyoko.
Yep.
Well then, I wonder if perhaps you could give me more information. Who is Izuru Kamakura?
That's close. It's just Kura, but that was almost right on the money.
Kamukura.
Yep, that's good.
It's strange, but by the name alone, I can't narrow down whether they're a man or a woman.
It's almost like the name is purposely ambiguous in that regard. Kirigiri shook his head without hesitation.
I told you before, I can't tell you that.
The smile disappeared from his face, yep.
I see. Fine then. I'll just have to find that out by myself.
She didn't say the latter part, but instead shifted her gaze to her feet.
Oh, he knows that. He knows she's thinking that. It doesn't take
Yeah.
a genius to figure that out.
But instead shifted her gaze to her feet and continued in a plain tone. That tells me, what that tells you is he's really concerned. Because if he brought Kyoko into this while still trying to hide things from her, knowing that she's so good
Seems
at
a little
this,
counterintuitive.
that she might find out things that he doesn't want her to find out, that tells you how worried he is about the stuff that he does want her to find out.
Yeah. But I don't understand. Why would you ask me to find out Kamakura for you if you know they're the culprit? You're trying to keep the incident covered up, right? Wouldn't it be better for the steering committee to continue sheltering them? No, I can't leave this to the steering committee. Oh. So you don't trust them either? No, that's not it. It's just that I don't think they know what they're doing. I think they're making a big mistake. A mistake. They think that if they can cover up this incident, it's all over. But I don't think that's true.
Kyoko listened to carefully to Kirigiri's explanation without interjecting.
I don't believe the tragedy is over and done with. Rather, I feel that somewhere out there, it's still continuing. I hope it's just my imagination, but if it isn't, this may turn into something we can't undo. That's why I must hear what Kamakura has to say. Is this, the potato in the coma, then?
It's possible, but it sounds more like Kamakura is missing. So Kamakura, because he doesn't know where
Maybe.
Kamakura is. So because remember, there were 13 that died, 1 in the coma, and 1 that's missing. So I would say it's more likely Kamakura.
But he's having Matsuda try and wake him up.
Yeah, we know that Matsuda's trying to talk to someone, whoever's in the coma, to like do whatever mental shit to like get him up. But that's the thing. That makes me think that he basically came to Matsuda. He got Matsuda working on the comatose one, and it seemed like Kyoko working on the missing one. That would make sense given their respective talents.
Yeah, that would make sense. 2 Kirigiris, 2 targets.
Yeah, but it's like, you got your neurologist to try and wake up the comatose guy and your detective to try and find the missing whatever.
He had a lot of powerful pawns in his
is.
hand and still lost to a fucking kid.
It is interesting though, because even to the viewer, like, they've said this name now, this Izuru Kamakura. They don't want us to know anything about this person.
Nope.
Not even gender. So, like, they're being very, very vague about this person.
Unfortunately, even now I'm unsure of the whereabouts of the steering committee. Makes it awfully hard to trust them.
Something bothered Kyoko. It had less to do with what he was saying, and more with his demeanor as he was telling her his fear of the incident was far from over. His tone of voice and gestures were certainly grave, but that was not all. She felt just a tiny hint of emotion hidden in them. She suddenly remembered her grandfather.
Ooh, another Kirigiri.
Lore, yep. Kyoko's grandfather, Jin Kirigiri's father, was the head of the Kirigiri family and is still on active duty as a detective.
Damn.
Kyoko's first job as a detective, though she was only acting as an assistant, was far more successful than expected. And although he hadn't said a word, his expressions showed subtle but immense pride. The man in front of her had a similar expression, but she dared not say anything. It would be an insult to her grandfather, who she revered.
What is this guy, the Von Karma of the detective industry?
Oh my god! That's actually really funny, but I won't talk about why. But that's actually really funny for those who know their Ace Attorney.
It's interesting for Ace Attorney.
Yes, it's interesting for Ace
Not
Attorney.
Danganronpa. Interesting. Yep. Is something wrong?
The question made her realize...
that's Jin.
Yeah. The question made her realize she'd been quiet for a while.
It's nothing.
Kyoko pulled herself together, softly brushing some hair out of her face.
Fine. I understand why you asked me to search for Kamakura now, essentially. You couldn't do it yourself without drawing the Kamishi's attention. Then she pointed her piercing eyes to... Oh.
That's fine. You're just towards Kirigiri again.
Why'd you say that out loud, Kyoko? But are you sure it was a good idea to confide in me?
Kirigiri's expression shifted.
What do you mean? I said it before, didn't I? The steering committee is being targeted because they're sheltering the culprit behind the tragedy. Which means... the culprit of this incident is someone who is searching for Kamakura.
Okay, so Junko wants Izuru. Izuru killed, seemingly, the steering committee. So Junko wants Izuru because Izuru... I could see Junko wanting someone that killed 13 people. That tracks.
It's a pretty impressive feat.
But the steering committee wants to protect Izuru.
I think it's because, if I'm remembering right, the potatoes that died, they were the reserve students. They weren't ultimates.
Well, they were the student council, so I would imagine they were probably ultimates.
Because I think they said at the start, the parade is the reserve course going in an uproar, isn't it?
Yes, but we just found out that Junko sent the rumor to every member of the reserve course. The email. We found out, because Kamishiro found out about that with help from Chihiro.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
So, Junko's stirring up the reserve course. But given that they're student council members... I would assume reserve course members are not allowed to be on the Hope's Peak Student Council. I'm just taking a wild guess on that.
They might have, politics, they might have one just to shut them up.
Yeah, that I can also see that. Yep.
Yeah.
I could see that. But either way,
it's like
yeah.
Basic peace offering stuff.
It would be really funny if the comatose one was like
one of the ones that survived wasn't an ultimate.
Yep. That would be funny. But, yeah, so I'm assuming Junko wants Izuru because she's, one, she probably sees potential, but also, this person's probably crazy in multiple senses. I mean, they killed 13 people. It's not the easiest thing to do, to be honest. Especially if these people were probably really talented. I mean, we don't know anything about the context of how they died or anything, but interesting stuff all around there. And then, but yeah, the steering committee wants to protect this individual, which is the part that's like interesting. Like I get that they want to cover up the incident because they don't want anyone to know that a terrible incident happened. But the fact that they want to protect the culprit is weird. Unless, the only thing I can think of there is because they're so obsessed with talent, if they think this potato
one has a very special talent.
Really special, yeah. Which would also make sense for why Junko wants them too. Beyond just the fact that they're a murderer, mass murderer, I guess serial killer, and kind of.
All right, well,
interesting.
Let's see. If it's someone Junko wants, let's think about her killing game and what it required. Because she wants an analyst, which is fair.
Yep.
She might want a neuro potato in Matsuda for the memory wipes.
She's kind of implied that she wants to get rid of him because she wants Ryoko, but that's the thing. The thing with Matsuda is we don't know if she needs him or she needs his research.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible that she doesn't need him. She just needs his findings. But maybe she needs him. So that one's a little iffy. But it's clear that she wants Ryoko. That seems clear.
What else would she need in an ultimate talent? I mean, an engineer would help.
Yeah, Chihiro would actually be really helpful.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting that Chihiro was referenced in this too. Not name dropped, but referenced.
That is fair.
It's hard hard to like. There's a lot of things that she could use, but it's hard to know what she actually wanted as part of her plan. Because we know that's the thing too, is we don't even know what she had. Because we know that there are like these despair potatoes that were never like, you know, extrapolated on. The only one we know about is her sister, which obviously Soldier, that's obviously very useful and was very useful to her. So we know she had that in her back pocket, and like I said, potentially an analyst, potentially a neurologist, but we don't know what she had, like the full extent of, you know, talented individuals that she had as part of her as her weapons of sorts.
Yeah, I don't know. Might have to hold off on that one for a little bit.
Yeah, interesting though. The Izuru thing is interesting, and I will say this character is very important, and I'll leave it at that.
Where was I? The culprit in this incident is someone who is searching for Kamakura.
Kirigiri suddenly realized what he was saying, and a stiff smile appeared on his face.
So what you're trying to say is that I'm a suspect? That's right. Although I already know it's not you.
Kyoko folded her arms as she spoke.
Right after the body disappeared, I made a phone call to this room. Seeing as how you answered, it unfortunately gives you a solid alibi. Unfortunately? That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
That's funny. But yeah.
Does my daughter really hate me that much?
That's crazy. So when Kyoko called Jin right away, she literally was like, she obviously called to say, hey, we need to meet to talk about this, but her call doubled.
You were the first suspect she thought about.
She was checking his alibi. That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense. Her logic makes sense, but like, it's still crazy.
Yeah.
Kirigiri chuckled quietly to himself as his stiff smile became a bitter one.
Furthermore, don't you think you have other reasons to worry? After all, when I find Izuru Kamakura, I might decide to call the police before coming to you. No, I'm not worried about that at all.
Kirigiri answered as if mocking this suggestion.
To the police, the most important thing is the law. To a detective, though, the most important thing is the client. You see every case to the end, and that's what makes you the ultimate detective. Even if you hate your client.
He thought to himself, damn.
Yeah.
Makes sense, though.
I wonder.
Code.
I mean, he didn't pursue the career path, but he learned all the techniques.
He knows. He knows. He understands people like her, because she's just like his father.
Because what?
She's just like his father. I mean, based on what we've gathered, the little bit that she kind of talked about her grandfather, it sounds like she's just like her grandfather.
Yeah,
it skipped a generation.
Pretty much. I wonder, why did you take the time to ask for me? So that I wouldn't come here to investigate on my own? You took it upon yourself to ask for my help directly?
As Kyoko spoke, she could feel that her words were laced with emotion, and so she cursed herself. It's like, damn it, my mask needs to be better.
Yeah. If that's what my words implied, I apologize. The reason I hired you was due to your sheer talent in the field. I had no ulterior motives.
I believe that. Like we said, like he clearly has, like he's part of this talent
Seems like
cult.
an honest bloke.
He is part of this fucking talent cult that is Hope Speak Academy.
Yes, sir.
He's actually one of the leaders of the talent cult.
Yes, sir.
Kirigiri chose his word. I like this too because like I feel like we're playing the nuance of both sides, that like he's not like inherently a bad person, but he's complicated, and he's definitely like not like this just amazing guy either. Like it's nuanced with him, and I like that because you know, it's nice that he's not like, I feel like, an outright like, oh, he's a misunderstood father, but he's also not like an outright, oh, he's an absolute dickhead. Somewhere in the middle. Anyways, Kirigiri chose his words carefully. It was clear that he was worried, and that only irritated Kyoko further. But more than anything else, she was angry with herself for letting him get to her. She thought she had put it all behind her. She wasn't supposed to feel anything for her father anymore, not even resentment. That's why she accepted the job. It was supposed to be just like any other case. So why was she choosing such sharp words every time she spoke? It was like...
Because you're only human, after all.
It was like...
Like I'm a spoiled child looking for attention. Damn, you miss your daddy.
But it's also the fact that, like, she recognizes that, and that pisses her off. Like, I love that.
You miss your daddy, Kyoko. Admit it. We're done. I think I've had enough of this idle chatter.
She said in a strained voice, trying to shake away those thoughts.
In any case, we cannot afford any more victims. I think it's a good idea for you to warn the rest of the committee members. Tell them if they continue to harbor Izuru Kamakura, it's likely more people are going to end up dead.
You're saying the name perfectly now. You've practiced it enough that you got it. Like that was perfect.
Why, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, of course.
Their eyes met. They both knew the committee were unlikely to listen, but neither of them said it out loud. It would be useless to mention it.
I'll be going now.
Kyoko turned her back on Kirigiri without giving him another look. As she neared the door, she raised his voice unexpectedly.
This job may be more dangerous than I thought.
Kyoko stopped in her tracks.
So? I'm a detective, heir to the Kirigiri family. I thought that's what you'd say.
Kyoko sensed those words were leading her to another unwanted emotion, and so she began moving quickly to the door again. When she reached for the doorknob, her father spoke up once more.
The reserve course... Shut the fuck up. The reserve course parade is growing more radical by the day. I feel the timing is too perfect. It can't be unrelated to that incident. What I'm trying to say is...
Kirigiri cleared his throat, attempting to sound more natural.
Be careful.
He sounded like a father cautioning his daughter before she went out for the evening. As the words left his mouth, Kyoko's expression softened. She remained silent, saying nothing more as she left the headmaster's office. What's fun is we know that nothing's going to happen to Kyoko. Like, she's safe in this story.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. That's different.
Yeah, and Jin's safe till the end.
Yeah. Jin could get fucked at the very end. That's
till
a
the
possibility.
very end.
But in all likelihood, he's gonna be fine because I don't expect this to go anywhere near that far into the timeline.
Depends. It's been left, ambiguous how far we even are in the timeline.
Yeah, we don't know. All we know is
the class
that
is well established by this point.
Because all we know is that the tragedy, the tragedy, hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
but it's definitely coming. Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to it.
As the words left his mouth, Kyoko's expression softened. She remained silent, saying nothing more as she left the headmaster's office. After hearing the door close loudly, Kirigiri let out a deep sigh and leaned back into his chair, a smile lingering on his gloomy face.
That really is one incredible talent she has.
Like, I get it, bro, but couldn't you mentally think that really is one incredible daughter I have or something? Like, I know you're not saying it out loud, but you're kind of implying that you're more interested in her talent than her, bro. Calm down.
Gee.
He whispered those words inside his heart.
I mean, he did leave her for talents. Of course he cares more about them.
Yeah. It's so, weird, because he does clearly care about her, but it's his care is twisted. There is that twisted nature to it. That's the whole Hope's Peak thing. That, they see these students in such a high light, but they see them almost as, gods and goddesses, and yet at the same time, they don't even see them as people. It's, It's really weird, but interesting. He whispered those words inside his heart, and the smile on his face grew wider. Upon leaving the headmaster's office, Kyoko coughed lightly before walking back through the corridor. Her footsteps echoed, much the same as they did before. Remaining expressionless, she whispered something quietly.
You didn't need to tell me.
She heard her own voice as it gently faded, and then she herself vanished too, deep into the dark corridors. We are one chapter away.
Never to be seen in Zero again.
That would be funny, but obviously she has investigating to do. We are one chapter away from finishing Volume 1.
Spoilers.
Yeah. We are coming to the final chapter of the first volume. But, yeah, what'd you think of Chapter 15, the Jin and Kyoko conversation chapter?
That girl has daddy issues.
She really does.
And bro has daughter issues.
He really does.
Oh my god. Both popping out emotions in them that they haven't felt in years. Unfortunately, Kyoko just... Well, she wants to be that void pretty much constantly as a detective, but unfortunately, she's one of the most human of the Kirigiri bloodline, despite the fact that she wants to reject that.
Yep.
So much so that she made friends with a commoner in the first game, which is pretty despicable.
Yeah, no,
especially such a bland, boring bitch like Makoto. Like, Jesus, I know he's your brother, but fucking hell, that's so like just standards, girl. Standards.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like I said, we don't get to see anything like this in Danganronpa 1, so it's really cool to get, like, Jin and Kyoko interacting, like, in this type of way, in, like, an extended scene, because it's probably something we're never going to see again. I mean, maybe they have another meeting later in the story, but it's just cool to see it, even if it's from a perspective where obviously they were... not on the best of terms, but it's still just cool. It's something that's cool to see, for sure.
For sure.
And yeah, and then a little more discussion about the incident. Izuru Kamakura, we have a name, presumably the
but
culprit.
Literally no context for said name, just a name.
It's literally a name, and even Kyoko has no idea if they're even a male or a female.
That's just something.
So this is it's interesting, right? Because if they're a student, you would think that people would know them. So that obviously means that there's some weird stuff at play here. Whatever's going on, it's sus. So, interesting.
Yeah.
But, yeah, not really a whole lot else to say about that, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, we have one more chapter for this video. So, chapter 16. Are you ready?
And, no. Alright, we are back. So, let's do the final chapter, supposedly.
Of Volume 1.
In this core of, Danganronpa 0.
I mean, it makes sense. We're at 44%. So.
Yeah. We might hit 50 at this point.
We might.
This has only been 10%.
Yeah, this has been a long... We've had a lot... I think we've talked a lot. Like, we had the long interlude, but we've also just kind of had a lot to say about things.
Yeah, we're at 240 right now.
Yeah, this will probably be a 3-hour part. I don't know how long this chapter is. It might be really short. Because for some reason in my head, I have it that it's 47%, the first volume. So this might be kind of short-ish. But I might have it flipped. It might be, like, more than half. But I think it's less than half, so I think we're pretty close. Anyways.
Let's find out.
Chapter 16. There are so many possibilities for endings. I, Ryoko Tanashi, have decided to leave Hope's Peak Academy with Yasuke Mitsuda. That's kind of funny. Matsuda.
What the hell is what?
That's just a typo. Right now we are waiting for our flight.
I mean, what is going on?
Yeah, she's deciding to leave with him. Will he agree to that?
Possibly.
Right now we are waiting for our flight at the airport lobby? Excuse me? Together, the two of us will board a plane and leave for the United States of America, the land of the free. America! Fuck yeah!
The land of the free? Are you fucking mad?
I finally realized what's important to me. I'm with Matsuda, who is my world. So I don't need to fuss over such trifling matters as Hope's Peak Academy. I have no obligation to participate in this irrational story. If you happen to be interested in...
meets girl.
If you
were my dream, my world.
Nice. If you happen to be interested in what happens next, by all means, go ask someone else. She's doing the meta thing again. She's like, yeah. This is literally her saying, hey, I'm leaving the story. You can focus. Like, yeah. Like, she's like, yeah, Kyoko, you know, she's one letter off from my name. She could be the main character for the rest of this. Bye.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. But you've taken a lot of time in the 44%. Like, come on, girl.
Yeah. I'm curious what's about to happen. I feel like something really big's going to happen. I have no memory of how the first volume specifically ends. So I'm not sure what's about to happen, but I assume it's going to end on something pretty substantial because it is essentially the halfway point.
Yeah,
we're busy. We'll see. After we get to America, we'll be working in cornfields trying to develop a new kind of corn. Okay. And after that, we'll be going to NASA in order to move our base of operations to the moon. I guess that makes sense, because she would want to be as, like, isolated as possible with just Matsuda. So, like, cornfield in the middle of nowhere in Iowa or Nebraska, that's pretty isolated. And the moon is about as isolated as you can get.
Jesus Christ. The entire diameter of the Earth itself is not enough free space for her.
Too many people. Hey, Matsuda, I say, turning toward him. He's already hard at work growing corn under the seat next to me. What is happening? She must be... This
is some weird dream.
Yeah, this has got to be a dream.
Yeah.
We're not at the plantation yet. Isn't this too early? Or, sorry, we're not at the plantation yet. Isn't this too early? Fuck off, he replies as he buries the seeds. I'm planting the Cybermen. Don't know what Cybermen are, but I feel like it's
some
probably
kind of
either that or it's a reference. You can't, Matsuda. Cybermen won't grow unless the soil is richer. Nappa's going to be upset. Nappa? This has to be some weird anime reference or something. I say, but Matsuda doesn't listen to me and he thump, 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 thump. I opened my eyes. Warily, I rose up and took a look around the room. Beige carpet. A small vanity against the wall, an empty bookshelf. Everywhere I looked were small notes reading, "This is my room." Seeing as how I must have put all that effort into putting up these notes, I can only assume it is my room. I took a deep breath to calm myself, and then realized I didn't have time for that. Thump, 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 thump. Someone was pounding violently on my door as if trying to bring it down. I'm coming, just a moment. Not if it's Matsuda, you're not.
Is this the little guy that wants to have sex with you?
Oh, it could be. Thump, 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 yeah. Ka-thump, ka-thump, ka-thump. I don't know if he has that much power. They clearly had no patience, as their knocks soon became strangely rhythmic and annoying. I crawled out of bed, realizing in the process that I must have been sleeping with my shoes on. Calm down,
you fucking psycho.
I thought as I removed them, grabbed my notebook from the bedside table, and rushed to the door. Who is it? I unlocked the door and with caution opened it slightly. Yoo-hoo! A blonde
Why are you doing
girl,
it?
Because it's gotta be her, right? A blonde girl with flashy makeup, yeah.
You're starting to assume everyone is Junko and Ashima. Are you okay?
When they're... No, but besides the point... I always want it to be Junko, but also, like, who the fuck? I guess maybe Kamishiro would say that, but
he's
even
silly
then,
enough to.
I don't know. That's very Junko to me, especially out of the people that are here. A blonde girl with flashy makeup peeked vigorously through the gap. Wah! Shocked, I jumped back. Hey, how much longer were you planning to sleep? You know it's already noon, right? What are you, dopey? Huh? Oh, no, wait. Sleepy was the one who was sleepy. That's right. My bad. That's so easy to forget that Sleepy is the sleepy one. Anyway, you probably just can't keep up with what I'm saying because you sleep so much.
I feel like this is a reference of some kind.
Yeah, it vaguely rings a bell. I opened my notebook to check who this strange girl was while she continued incessantly talking. Oh dear, did you forget all about me? Let me tell you then, I'm Junko Enoshima. That is, ultimate fashionista Junko Enoshima. Junko Enoshima, huh? I hurried and looked for memories of her in my notebook. Soon, alarms started going off inside my head. Junko Enoshima was the egotistical, self-proclaimed murderer who I wasn't supposed to have anything to do with under any circumstances. Rude. How can you be egotistical when you're just the best?
She doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, well, maybe she knows, but she has to be reminded.
Blissful ignorance.
Yeah, exactly. That's this whole fucking story. Go away! I screamed as if my brain were coming to a boil. I tried to close the door in a panic, but she had already forced her foot through the gap like a persistent salesman, stopping me from doing so. Hey, are you trying to run away? That kind of attitude's just gonna hurt my feelings, you know? I don't care, just go away. With all of my strength, I tried to force the door shut, but it didn't budge. Ding dong! Oh my gosh, I totally got it. Didn't you say you thought I was crazy? I think I've got a few screws loose. You're thinking, I don't need you to tell me, right? I realized that a long time ago, right? Well, have I got something that will blow your mind? She threw her hands out and widened her eyes, looking verifiably insane. What? You want to know? I mean, if you figure it all out, your mind will be totally blown. And I agree with Junko on this. If at any point you figure it out, you figure out this story, your mind will be blown. I wouldn't say we're running out of time, but, 45%.
Almost halfway.
But yeah, no, because I'm just having memories from my time reading this and losing my mind over things. It's like she's from another planet. No, that's not it. I meant, what do you want from me? Well, if you really and truly insist. Excuse me, coming in. She forced the door open with what seemed like the strength of 100 men and made her way into the room. Stop! As I tried to escape deeper into the room, Enoshima grabbed the collar of my shirt. God damn it, Ryoko, I'm so jealous. I know. Wouldn't it be way better if you stopped trying to run away? I mean, aren't I the grand thief who stole away all your precious notebooks? Don't you hate me? Don't you just despise me? I don't care anymore. I don't need those old memories anymore. I don't remember them anyway. I struggled violently and somehow managed to shake her off before running to my bed as fast as I could. I pulled the blanket over my body and pleaded with her. Just leave me alone. Stop trying to get me involved. It has nothing to do with me. Then...
She gonna give her a little pat on the ass? Get her
I
out?
see. You're just fine being holed up in your itty-bitty world. I heard Enoshima's cold, indifferent voice through the blanket. But that would mean you're going to just let Yasuke Matsuda die. You're really okay with that? All at once, my sunken emotions bubbled up, flooding my chest. What did you say? What are you going to do to Matsuda? I tossed away the blanket in a hurry and the girl crept close to me. And then something unexpected happened. With a huge grin on her face, Junko Enoshima hugged me.
Whoa.
Huh? Why does Ryoko get all the nice things? Jesus Christ. She's been, choked by her. She's been grabbed by the collar by her. She's been hugged by her. God damn.
Yeah.
Frozen by surprise, I stood there and she softly whispered.
I can feel
in my
your
ear.
jealousy seething through.
Oh, now see, I wouldn't just let me be Ryoko. I don't even need to remember it. The few seconds would be great. The despair of not remembering is also fitting. Yes, that's good. You should hate me so much you'd want to kill me. The more you despise me, the more despair-inducing this story is going to become. And that would be perfect. Yeah, she's really playing into this idea of the more you
crazy.
The more you hate me, the better this is going to be, because presumably Ryoko, you belong to her. in some form or fashion already, and you just don't know it.
You're already claimed.
So
girl.
the more you hate her, the better it's gonna be for her.
Yeah.
That's what it comes off as, at least. Wait, let go of me. Hate me, despise me, fight me. Break out of that shell, and let the real you run free. You're not as trapped in your own little world as you think. Let's give birth to a new you. It may hurt right now, but don't worry. You're still in the teething stage. Once you're done with that, the real you will be born, and we can rejoice. Yeah, I feel like this is like about as close to confirmation that the real Ryoko, quote unquote, is very different from the Ryoko that we know.
Let's see it.
Desperate, I took a bite into Enoshima's ear. I am Ryoko.
Whoa!
Ryoko. I don't know whether to say "fuck you" or "God, I want to be you so bad." Both. Incredibly rude, but also, damn. Ow! Ow! Junko saying "ow, ow, ow" something about that's really funny. As she faltered, I tore myself from her grip. Give me a break. Why are you trying to get us involved with something like that? It has nothing to do with us. I haven't gone to the next page yet, but that's the thing, Ryoko. I think it has everything to do with you.
Oh dear, just how far does the damage go?
Whether you have or don't have anything to do with it, has nothing to do with it. She caressed her bitten ear and turned to me, an ecstatic smile on her face. Car crashes, natural disasters, wars, unfortunate accidents. Do you even realize how many people in this world lose their lives to things that have nothing to do with them? That's a wild thing to say, given what she's planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, all of those things are going to happen because of me. Natural disasters, even. It's just the same. It certainly seems that way. Silently, I began praying. Dear God, please listen to my prayer. Please drop a meteorite or something on this girl's head right now.
Damn.
If you do that, I will revere no one but you for the rest of my life right after Matsuda. you only get to be number 2, though.
My God. God himself is after the mighty Matsuda.
Besides, it has...
That'd be fucking hilarious.
Yep. Besides, it has everything to do with you. You can say otherwise all you like, but it's only because you don't remember. Huh? My prayer
What did you do?
My prayer was instantly swallowed by intense bewilderment. What do you mean by that? It's obvious, isn't it? Enoshima lowered her voice and spoke in a commanding tone. The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. You've got plenty to do with it. I quickly turned to consult Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook, but Enoshima got to it first. I mean, I guess, hypothetically, it's possible she's the killer, but...
God, that would be... that would be crazy.
I mean, like, I don't see any reason why she couldn't be. The thing is what, like, the problem with that is Izuru Kamakura is like, what's that about? Right? Like, that seems to be the killer.
Just one of the survivors.
Yeah, that
the
seems to be... Well, like I said, there's also that. We still don't know what's up with that. I'm assuming there's a decent chance that person's going to probably wake up eventually. Because that's a plot line that they set up that they haven't done anything with yet. So, yeah, we got the comatose person, we got the missing person. We don't... those plot lines have to be resolved. And presumably, one of them, again, more likely the missing individual, is probably the killer, but... It's hard to think of how else to take this other than, as far as what Ryoko how she could have been involved in this. But anyways, I quickly turned to consult Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook, but Enoshima got to it first. Let go of that. Did you really think the things you can't remember are worthless and meaningless? Honestly, it's like you have boobs for brains. I would know. She laughed quietly as she drew closer. You know, even if you lose your memories, your actions don't disappear with them. Their effects
Damn,
are
I
still...
thought she really said I would know.
She would, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Their effects
Very
are
in
still
character.
felt. Yep. Their effects are still felt right now in that world you've forgotten about. What are you saying? Hey, really? You've never thought about it? Your actions affect people all over the globe. Yeah, I mean, like, she's, like, really banging it into the head that, like, Ryuko is definitely... It's gotta be that Ryoko's, like, a despair. And a very important one. Or potentially the second most important one.
Seems to be where we're going with this.
It's gotta be. Someone could be hurting or tortured by them. That's not... It's a cruel world out there, but it's the one we live in. People are intertwined in ways much more complex than you have ever imagined. A single person's actions may save the entire world, or cause a chain of despair that throws the world into chaos. It's so incredible. Truly, this is a worthy world to live in. She's not wrong. I mean, a single person can save the world, and a single person can, throw the world into chaos.
And I think we have a good example of that.
Yes.
Because the winning side is always despair.
Oh, yes. I couldn't bear to listen to her anymore. Her speech was absurd, stupid, rude. But there was something there. A shameful thought. Somewhere deep inside my heart, I found myself agreeing with her words.
Oh, dear.
I should say. Do you get it now?
Is she winning her over?
That's the thing, right? It's like
Claiming
Juko.
back your prize.
Juko's gonna win her over all over again. She's gotta just...
no.
In that case, let's return to where we started. And Ashima crossed her arms. I'm gonna talk fast, so play attention. Okay, pay attention. You most certainly are involved with the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. But I assume you're probably thinking, like, exactly how am I involved, right? Should we move on to that? That's fine, but it's all kind of sudden. All right, I'll tell you. She ignored me entirely and continued. By which I mean I can't really tell you.
What the
I love Junko. Which is it? I wish she would be a little more, at least be a little clearer. I mean, it'd just be so boring if I tell you right now. At least that's what I think. That's why you should find out on your own exactly what your involvement with the incident is. I think that's the kind of story this is.
Oh my god, you're being a bad fucking tease right now, Junko.
Find out on my own? This isn't a game! You're actually right, Ryuko! This isn't a game!
Yet.
That's what's funny about it. You're probably thinking, like, this isn't a game? Oh my god, Junko. But I'm not gonna tell you either way. It wouldn't fit in the story right if I did. But, tell you what, I'll totally give you a hint. Yeah. That's what I'll do.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's that kind of story. I gave up. Her words were beginning to make less and less sense. There was no point in trying anymore. Which means what exactly? I said I'm gonna give you a hint, Inoshima answered in an annoyed tone. By the way, once I give you the hint, my role here is over. After I give it, I'm going to go away without saying another word. You're going to go...
Are we done with Junko after this?
I mean, it's possible. This is the end of the first volume.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like handing over the keys to the next character.
She's being incredibly meta now, even by her standards.
So this is the last time we'll see Junko and Ashima alive.
Potentially. We'll have to see. I mean, who knows? But as it stands now, it looks like she's probably not going to show up again in this, but who knows? After I give it, I'm going to go away without saying another word. You're going to go away? You are? Really? I thrust my body forward instinctively. Until now, my body had felt entirely drained. Then tell me and then go away. Fine. It's not like my feelings are hurt or anything, Baka. Enoshima's lip quivered as if she were hurt by my joy. By the way, this is important, so make sure you write everything down in that little notebook of yours. Sure, I got it, so please tell me. As I pressed her, I held my notebook open. She cleared her throat softly, then spoke loudly, as though making an important announcement. Ta-da! Here we go! The hint is all about Junko Enoshima's goals. Making a V sign with her right hand, she continued. In fact, there are 2 such goals. She dropped one finger, leaving her index finger pointing up. Goal number 1, to thoroughly crush down this school's symbol of hope, Izuru Kamakura, until there is nothing left. Then she raised her middle finger. Goal number 2. After a short pause for dramatic effect, she raised her voice to the point where she was nearly screaming, to kill your beloved darling, Yasuke Matsuda! I heard a thump and realized I dropped my notebook on the floor. My body stiffened. I couldn't even speak. It's interesting, too, because thoroughly crushed down the school's symbol of hope with Izuru. It's both referring to Izuru as the school's symbol of hope and thoroughly crushed down. That doesn't mean kill. Until there is nothing left. That kind of
implies this potato is the current ultimate hope.
Yeah, whatever.
It might be such a target for the ultimate despair to go.
Interesting. But it's also interesting because, like I said, like right now, this Izuru is the main suspect of killing 13 people. So, does that not disqualify you from being hope?
Not really.
I guess not. Interesting. And then, because she does specifically say, I want to kill Matsuda. Anyways, I heard a thump and realized I dropped my notebook on the floor. My body stiffened. I couldn't even speak. Kill your beloved darling, Yasuke Matsuda. Those incomprehensible words sprouted buds of fear and anxiety within my body. They grew and stretched in a single instant, rooting my body in place. I was unable to move even a single finger, as though I were in a full body cast. As I stood there, frozen and silent, Enoshima continued to stare at me. There was no sound. Her mouth was a straight line, tightly closed, as if declaring her intention not to speak anymore. And then, after standing there quietly for a few seconds, Enoshima gave a small goodbye wave and left my room. The moment I heard the door closing my body, the moment I heard the door closing, my body lost every bit of its energy and I collapsed, as if stricken down by anemia. Oh, what the? My voice squeezed from deep within my throat, sounding like the chirps of a small dying bird. Matsuda, she's going to kill? Let me prepare. Kill, 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 kill. The cruel word took over my entire world. She can't. She just can't. My face grew unfathomably hot. Every hair on my body seemed to stand on end. She can't do that. She could do whatever she wants. She's Junko. My chest had grown hot
this is something that Ryoko already agreed to do before the mindfuckery.
What?
Kill him.
Oh, you think Ryoko's gonna do it?
I think she was going to do it before the mindfuckery happened.
Interesting. That would make sense.
And that's why Junko's trying to get her back on that course.
Especially if like Ryoko's like actually in love with Matsuda, like legitimately, like brainwashing aside or whatever. Because that would be a very despairful thing to do, to kill the one you love.
Yeah.
My chest had grown hot as well. A fiery fury welled up within my heart as it began to beat faster. And then, something strange happened. Magma-like heat boiled up from the pit of my stomach, gradually swelled inside my body, and exploded as it reached my chest. It spread from my heart and flowed through every muscle in my body. I was rejuvenated, stimulated. I can't let her do this! I leapt out of my room and into the corridor as I yelled. Like a bullet, I shot down the hallway in a fervor that I couldn't believe myself. The pages of Ryoko Tanashi's memory notebook fluttered in the wind. As I listened to the flapping cries of my trusted partner, I screamed inside my heart, "I'll protect my world! I'll protect Matsuda!" As I ran through the dormitory's corridors, air rushed against me like a hurricane. "Matsuda, wait for me. I'll be there soon." Ryoko Tanashi is running. I am running, so that I can become the savior of my world and of Matsuda. I hadn't realized it yet. Not at the time. My frantic movement toward this goal was itself the beginning of my despair. I had no way of knowing, just yet, how despair-inducing it was. And there's the cover of Volume 2, which is Matsuda's side of the cover. So that's the symbol that we are in Volume 2. Or we finished Volume 1.
That's pretty bad. She's starting her despair journey, is she?
Again, that's her being meta again, too, because she had this might be just a despair thing, maybe, then. Because she's acknowledging that this was the beginning of her descent into despair.
That she remembers.
But she shouldn't know that, unless she's, breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. This is like her first kind of narrative flashback kind of thing here.
So yeah, it ticks to 47 when we go to Volume 2, Chapter 1. So it's a little under halfway in terms of percentage.
So yeah, that's pretty bad. It's kind of interesting, right? Because while it is an interesting spot to kick off Junko from the story now that she's put the keys in Ryoko's favor, it's interesting because we still don't know about the missing bodies. That's something Junko just has no knowledge of, or whatever the fuck's going on about that.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I definitely, one thing that I could see as a possibility is Ryoko and Junko never interact again in the story. That could be what she meant by that. It's not impossible to say that we don't get Junko-related stuff, though.
Yeah. But I think it does make...
Or, this is where it could get really fucky-wucky. Maybe that's the last time we see Junko and Oshima.
And then we go to Mukuro Ikusaba.
But, yeah, who's to say that's not the last time we see, quote-unquote, Junko and Oshima. That feels like a very Danganronpa thing to do, to say that, that moment, it's almost like a quick verification of, this is the real Junko that you're right now. But you're not going to see her again. So it could be something like that.
I kind of thought it still kind of made sense, because either way, we're just kind of starting Kyoko's journey now, so it's like we're swapping out one previous character with another right here.
Yeah.
In Kyoko, so it would make sense to swap out Junko, even though the stories are vastly different from both of them.
She'll have her, I'm sure. She'll have a role to play, even if we don't see her, because obviously her influence is going to be felt in whatever happens.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yep. So so now Ryoko knows that, presumably she got that written down, hopefully, but she knows that
she
Matsuda,
threw a notebook aside though.
Yeah. But she knows that Junko just outright told her that her objectives were to crush Izuru and to kill Matsuda.
How sussy is that?
I mean, the Izuru thing is interesting because that's something that's come up recently, and we still don't really know. We don't really know anything about that. The kill Matsuda thing seems more obvious and more directly tied to the story that we've been following, given they're the two main characters. Because Matsuda, obviously, she's trying to presumably break Ryoko, and that's part of the process. But that's the thing, right? how she goes about that is interesting, because while I'm sure he's pretty badass, I'm sure if she really just wanted to kill him and it was that simple, if that was all she was trying to do in that situation, she would have done it by now. But I think it's a lot. I think there's a lot that she wants, and she wants Ryuko has a role to play in this, whatever.
Well, obviously he's got to hit his despair as well.
Yeah, and yeah, you might as well. Yeah, it seems like she very much wants, like I said, she's killing all these people left and right, but she defined her goals as these specific things. So these are kind of like the big things here in this stage of her plan. So yeah, she's gonna enjoy that, I'm sure. Interesting, though. Very interesting. We are making progress. We're technically technically just under halfway, but essentially this was the halfway point. So we're getting there.
Yeah, and it's getting really engaging. I'm getting really curious and suspenseful about what the fuck's going on now.
Yep.
A little biased now that Kyoko's part of the cast, but
Kyoko doesn't hurt.
Just how it is.
I mean, hey. So far, we've only had two of the 78th class, and it's Junko and Kyoko. So all I gotta say is, you know what? Not a lot of them, but pretty good picks so far.
Not a bad pair at all.
Can't go wrong with those two.
No, you cannot.
But yeah, no, it's interesting because we got our spy, we got our detective, we got several people kind of investigating this. It seemed like Madurai also was, but he got killed. So there's other people investigating it. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. What happens with all of that. I mean, we know Kyoko's going to be fine. Kamishiro, though, that's a question mark. Obviously, Matsuda, his fate is very up in the air, to say the least. In fact, it feels like there's a pretty good chance that things aren't going to go well for Matsuda by the end of this book. But we'll see. It's interesting with Ryuko, though, because she's such an interesting piece in all this, because I don't get the impression that she's going to die in this story. And
that is very interesting.
And if she doesn't die in this story, that is very interesting as it pertains to Danganronpa in general as a series. Because it feels like Matsuda's probably, like, they're really setting it up, and maybe that's a misdirect, but it feels like Matsuda's probably not going to make it. And that will tie up that loose end. But Ryuko, I mean, maybe they have a Romeo and Juliet kind of situation. This could go a Romeo and Juliet route for sure.
That would be pretty up there for Junko's expectations.
But I almost feel like that's not despairful enough for Ryuko.
Yeah.
That's too romantic. That's too, like... I feel like Ryuko almost has to live for it to really hurt as much as I think Junko seems to want to make it hurt.
By that point, I assume she'll be fixed and her memory will be fine.
But that's the thing, right? If Ryuko is who it seems like she is, Junko's going to want to make her hurt even more, because she actually probably legit, in her own twisted way, cares about Ryuko even more than other people. So she probably really wants to make it hurt even more, because that's like her weird twisted way of, like being sweet or whatever. So, yeah, I think she's going to really fuck Ryuko hard.
We shall see.
But it's exciting.
The effect Enoshima has.
It's exciting. And, I think the characters in this have been, like, I think Matsuda and Ryuko are, like, really compelling. Like, obviously we have, like, the other side characters that are original, and that that's a little more iffy, but I do think, like, the actual, like, main focus characters are both really interesting in their own ways. And I feel like we've really shied away from Matsuda a bit. Like, we were getting a lot of him for a bit, and then we've kind of, like, stopped focusing on him. But I definitely think in Volume 2 we're going to get a lot more of Matsuda, because this volume, he's on the cover. So, I definitely think that probably is a sign that he's going to be he's going to have a lot of shine in this. Especially if it's going to end really badly for him. He might kind of become... Like, obviously...
It's definitely symbolic there, how they did that. So, Matsuda's probably going to be the star character of the next one.
Sure. And I'm looking forward to that. I actually really like him. He's such an asshole.
Well, we know you do like your assholes.
But he clearly means well, but I say that, but also potentially in, like, really bad ways. Like, we'll have to see. We still don't... It's
there
interesting,
are some
too.
theories on him.
It's interesting, too. Like, I like the way this game is, like, marinating. I wouldn't even say it's, like, cooking. It's, like, marinating. It's simmering. Where it's, like, it feels like a lot of very tangible and very, like, believable theories are coming to light. Like, now we could start to really dive into, okay, what if it's this? What if it's this? What if it's that? But we've barely gotten any answers up to this point. But it does feel like more tangible ideas are coming to surface. So I like the way it's like things are becoming clearer, but not really.
That's just how Danganronpa reveals its mysteries.
It's doing it real. I think this story's doing it really well in that regard. It feels very fluid and like there's a good flow to it. So yeah, but that was the first half of Danganronpa 0. We're, like I said, halfway there.
And now,
probably 4 more videos.
Much as with as symbolic as it is with Matsuda on the cover and the evil side of Monokuma, this is probably going to be a very despair-inducing story now.
That's a really great point. That it's the black side of the bear. That's a very nice little detail as well.
We're turning things up a notch now.
Supposedly without Junko, which is wild.
Hell yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Possibly
put Mukuro in the cockpit.
The reveals for the I am really excited to get to the end of this. There's some crazy stuff, and I'm like really looking forward to it. But I was excited. This was a fun episode. I really liked it. We got more Junko. We got cool stuff with Ryoko. A little bit of Matsuda. We got to see Kamishiro again, and of course, probably most notably, we got to see the introduction of the next character in Danganronpa 0, one Kyoko Kirigiri, which of course I was excited to get to that, obviously.
Obviously, yes.
Yep. It was so funny, though, that you went on that little tangent about Kyoko not being in the story, like the chapter before she shows up.
I know, right?
So good.
It just seemed kind of obvious. Like, she was an obvious, like, person to get involved in this, and they just kept her away for so long.
Yep.
But I'm glad we finally resolved that little matter.
So, yeah, I mean, we've seen Kyoko now. Do you think any particular DR1 characters you think will pop up in Volume 2? Or you think we're already capped out?
Mostly just Mukuro now.
I mean, yeah, I feel like Mukuro feels even more likely after what Junko just said.
Yeah. I'd say it's possible we see the others, or we might get some references to them, like Chihiro.
Yeah, sure.
But probably not much else at this point. I don't feel like.
It kind of makes sense because like Kyoko fits really naturally into this story. This kind of like, it's like a suspense kind of thriller kind of thing. Which again, to be fair, that's not too far off from Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, but it is a little bit different of a vibe. Like at the same time, this is a case like with Zero, like. There's probably a world where you could have done like a visual novel of this, but it definitely makes sense why this isn't a game at the same time. This is definitely, a different type of story. So,
yeah,
it fits. It probably, it's simplest, I guess, as just a straight up book, a straight up novel. Yeah, no, we're halfway there. That means, like I said, give or take 4 more sessions. Probably 3 at the least, 5 at the most, but give or take 4 more sessions, and then it'll be time for something that I'm sure anyone that's actually watching this has been waiting for a while, because we're creeping ever closer to a certain certain video game called Danganronpa 2.
I know,
Pretty
right?
exciting, yeah.
That's gonna be kind of hype.
Yeah, we recorded this like the day after the last session, so we keep
Making
grinding
the
a little
progress
bit. We're
halfway
gonna
through
be there
almost.
pretty quickly. We're gonna be there pretty quickly, hopefully. So, I don't know. Like I said, you guys won't see this for a little while, but we're getting there. We're getting there, and trust me, I'm as
go.
excited as any of you for him to get to Danganronpa 2.
Not as excited as I am.
Yeah, of course. But no, that was fun. I'm really excited. Good to hear that it seems like you enjoyed the first volume of Danganronpa 0 and seemed to be excited for the second volume.
I am.
So,
I can confirm that for sure. I most definitely am.
Yep. And it's a very different format, but I think you could definitely recognize that it's like Kodaka, like it's like the writing and just like the you could kind of tell that it's I think written by the creator of Danganronpa. That same type of vibe, even in a different format.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, anyways, I don't have anything to say, so if you want to get us out of here, unless you have something else to say.
I'm pretty good. But guys, we are almost perfectly halfway. We are basically halfway through Danganronpa 0 now. And next time we will probably begin a much more intense journey, as we have now taken our first leap into despair.
Perfect.
So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.